Chapter 1. Uyghur. Tell a story. Tell a story. In the northwest corner of Kangwoo Academy, in the courtyard of the Chores Court, a 16-year-old youth dressed in green sat upright on a stone bench under a tree. Surrounding him was a group of youths of similar age. The green-clothed youth's name was Li Yu. He had a unique short hair and seemed to be somewhat different from the rest of the youths with long hair. Uyghur, quickly tell a story. Yes. Yes. The story you told yesterday about the romantic scholar Liang Shanhua who disguised himself as a woman and snuck into the ladies' academy is very good. Yes. Yes. The valiant and invincible great sage Sun who swept away the 108 female demons of the coiling silk cave with a stick. This story is also very good. Sigh. Li let out a long sigh, and his face was filled with helplessness. Originally, telling a story to the brothers is not a big deal. But my work is not done yet. What should I do? What is this? Leave it to us. Yes. Yes. Uyghur, don't worry. You don't have to worry about these chores. We will take care of everything. The group of youths volunteered and took the initiative to share Li Yu's burden. How can I accept this? Li Yu seemed to be slightly ashamed and lowered his head slightly. Of course, if one observed carefully, the corners of the youth's mouth that were slightly raised had already exposed the true thoughts in his heart. We are all brothers. What is there to be embarrassed about? Yes. Yes. Uyghur, your body is weak, so you don't have to do these heavy jobs. Leave it to us. Then I will have to trouble you brothers. Li Yu cupped his fists and said with a smile. Later, I will tell you a story about the romantic Elder Tang's daughter country to reward everyone. How about it? Ha ha ha. Good. Romantic Elder Tang. Ha, that is great. Hee hee. Daughter country? That is great. The group of youths were instantly filled with passion, and their enthusiasm to work became even higher. Sigh. After the group of youths left, Li Yu let out another long sigh. This long sigh was really sincere. I must have transmigrated in the wrong posture. Li Yu looked at his thin body and shook his head helplessly. It's fine if you're getting younger. Why did you send me to such a powerful world? I went to the kitchen to help kill a chicken, but I was knocked over by a rooster. What kind of chicken is that? You can't even hold it down with your whole body? Everyone is aware of the fact that they don't have the strength to truss a chicken. If even a chicken is so ferocious, you can imagine how ferocious a human would be. These young odd job workers can walk as if they're flying when they're casually carrying 1 to 200 kilograms of stuff. If it weren't for the fact that I really couldn't do anything, why would I say these dirty jokes and let them work for me? Helplessly shaking his head, Li Yu picked up a teacup from the stone table in front of him and took a sip. System, you've already been activated for a few months. When will you be done? Li Yu secretly complained. There's not even a progress bar. Who designed this? You really don't have any common sense. Yes, he had a system. When Li Yu just transmigrated over, he fell to the ground with his face first. Then, he was picked up by Yin Kongming, the manager of the odd job yard. Originally, no matter how kind Yin Kongming was, he would at most give some food and some money to these refugees who had fainted on the side of the road. However, Li Yu's extremely weak body piqued Yin Kongming's interest. He wanted to know how a person whose bones were as weak as twigs and whose vital energy was as weak as a firefly could actually live until now. Therefore, Li Yu was brought to the Kangwoo Academy's odd job yard by Yin Kongming and became an off-staff odd job worker. When Li Yu found out the reason, he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. My body is very normal, all right? You guys are the ones who are abnormal, all right? When a child throws a stone, it'll be 10 to 20 kilograms, and they'll all throw it over 100 feet away. In my world, we're all superhumans, all right? When he arrived at the odd job yard, Yin Kongming also tried to teach Li Yu some basic ways to train his body. Unfortunately, until now, more than 2 months had passed. Li Yu's body was still in the same state. Li Yu also couldn't speak of his suffering. It was all because of this system. Just a little bit of vital energy was immediately swallowed up by the system. Then, the system displayed in Li Yu's mind, activating system, and that was it. It's already been activated for a few months. When are you going to activate it? Li Yu stretched out his hands to hold his head and sighed secretly. Liu, you're slacking off again. A young girl wearing a light yellow dress suddenly appeared behind Liu. The young girl's long, shapely eyebrows were furrowed, and she pretended to glare fiercely at Liu. So it's Luo. Liu turned his head to look at the young girl and greeted her with a smile. This young girl was the daughter of the steward of the odd job yard, Kongming. She was 14 years old this year. Although she was still a lowly, she was full of vitality and beauty. She was the dream lover of the 27 youths in the odd job yard. Well, Liu wasn't included among them. After experiencing countless visual shocks in his previous life, Liu expressed that he didn't have any love for the washboard. Liu, why are you slacking off again? Your constitution is so bad, and your vital energy is so weak. If you don't train, my father said that you might not live past 30 years old. Do you still want to live? Luo glared at Liu, seemingly a little angry. Seeing Liu's indifferent expression, Luo was so angry that she snorted and heavily stomped her feet. Bang! The tyrannical strength of her stomp created a pit in the ground. The teacups on the stone table in front of Liu were clinking nonstop. Well, this was the reality. Liu looked at this young girl who seemed too weak to stand up to a gust of wind and suddenly felt a toothache. This world had a strong martial culture. Even the common people had 2 or 3 skills in farming. In a place like the Kangwu Academy, which was a place of Confucian cultivation, there were even more superhumans everywhere. This feeling of being a weakling is really terrible. System, hurry up and activate it. Liu shouted gloomily in his heart. Clang! A J bottle was thrown on the stone table in front of Liu. For you, hurry up and eat it. Luo's angry face appeared in front of Liu again. For me? Liu stretched out his hand and picked up the J bottle. When he opened the cap, a fragrant smell assaulted his senses. Liu felt comfortable all over. It was as if every cell in his body was cheering. What is this? Liu knew that the thing in the bottle was probably extraordinary. If Luo gave it to Liu without Kongming's permission, she would probably be in trouble. Father asked me to give it to you. It's the vitality nurturing and blood nourishing pill. Your body will feel better after you eat it. Luo raised her head and looked at Liu. There was a faint trace of concern in her eyes. Father also said that your body is congenitally deficient. This pill is just an external supplement. If you want to get better, you still need to have a strong inner body. This will depend on you. Don't be so lazy. You'll get better if you exercise more. Oh, I understand. Liu nodded and replied casually. He stretched out his hand and poured out the pill from the bottle. His body was very normal. How could he believe the nonsense of not being able to live past 30? I wonder if I can activate the system after eating this pill? Liu smiled as he looked at the pigeon egg-sized pill in his hand. It was as red as blood. He raised his hand and stuffed it into his mouth, swallowing it whole. Book Group 419, 574, 189. Chapter 2. A warm current rolled down his throat and fell into his stomach. Then, there was no more then. The warm current fell into his stomach. It was as if it had fallen into an invisible black hole and disappeared without a trace. Liu was about to ask Luo whether this pill was fake or not when a voice suddenly echoed in his mind. It made Liu's body tremble. System activation is complete. System binding. System binding successful. Hello, respected user. Welcome to the Myriad Heavens System Store. Haha, it's finally activated. I can finally stop being a weakling. Liu was very happy in his heart. He couldn't help but laugh out loud. Brother Yu. Luo opened her mouth, but didn't know what to say. She tightly wrinkled her willowy eyebrows and looked at Liu with a somewhat sorrowful look in her eyes. Luo secretly sighed in her heart. This pill doesn't have any effect at all. Luo had also eaten the essence-nurturing and blood-nourishing pill. She knew what kind of reaction one would have after eating this pill. However, Liu didn't feel his blood and qi churning after eating the pill. His face didn't turn red like a jujube. His whole body didn't heat up, and he didn't sweat profusely either. It was as if he hadn't eaten the pill. There wasn't the slightest reaction. It's still not working? Brother, you won't live for long? Yin Luo felt as if her heart had been ruthlessly pinched when she saw Liu swallow the pill. Her nose turned somewhat sour. Liu would have burst out laughing if he knew what Yin Luo was thinking. His body had a completely normal constitution. So, how could he not live for long? Ha ha, good, very good. Liu laughed heartily as he stood up. He then cupped his hands towards Yin Luo in gratitude. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Manager Yin. This pill has been of great help to me. He had activated the system and solved Liu's urgent problem. So, he sincerely expressed his gratitude. Yin Luo was stunned for a moment. Then, she raised her head and looked at Liu. She then revealed an ugly smile. Are you comforting me? Don't you want me to know that this pill is useless? Don't you want me to be disappointed? But who's going to comfort you? I'll go back to my room first. After taking this pill, you still need to digest it. Liu was in a hurry to go back and check the system. So, he greeted Yin Luo and hurried back to his room. But he hadn't paid any attention to Yin Luo's complexion. And he hadn't anticipated that Yin Luo would have some kind of misunderstanding. Back in his room, Liu sat on the bed and sank into his mind. A virtual screen appeared in his mind. At the top of the screen was Liu's profile picture, and below were the words, User Information. On the left was an icon in the shape of a cloud, and below it was written System Template. On the right was an icon that looked like a cabinet with the words Resource Vault written below it. In the middle was an icon in the shape of an Ouroboros, with the words Workbench written on it. That's it. This is the system that took several months to activate. Liu was greatly disappointed. He had thought that with the system in hand, the world is mine. From then on, he would be able to counterattack the tall, rich, and handsome, marry the fair, rich, and beautiful woman, and walk to the peak of life. He didn't expect the system to be so useless. What happened to exchanging for various divine arts and secret techniques? What about exchanging for various heavenly materials and earthly treasures? What about exchanging for various divine weapons? Why wasn't there a single one? What about the lottery? What about the novice gift package? Not even that. What about the cultivation assistance? What about the skill upgrade by 1 level after adding a skill point? Not even that. What's the point of having you if you don't have any functions? Is it worthy of a lofty name, Myriad Heavens System Shopping Mall? Introduce the functions of a system. Liu's heart was somewhat stifled. He gave the system an order in a bad mood. Hello, respected user. The Myriad Heavens System Shopping Mall has professional system manufacturing tools. It provides custom-made portable systems for all the customers in the Myriad Heavens system. Manufacturing system? It can manufacture systems? Liu took a deep breath. His heart was beating violently like a drum, as if it was going to jump out of his chest. Manufacturing system. Is there anything more awesome than this? Whatever system I want, I'll create that system. Want exchange? Create an exchange system. Want to draw a lottery? Create a lottery system. Want to add skill points? Create a game system. Yes, create 2. Use one and throw away the other. You can be so willful when you have money. Hee hee. Liu sat on the bed with a silly smile on his face. Let me familiarize myself with this system shopping mall first. After laughing for a while, Liu finally calmed down. How do I use this thing? I don't have a mouse. How do I click on the icon? Do I use my consciousness? Do I just have to think about it? Thinking of this, Liu focused his mind on his own image in the middle of the screen. Open user information. With that in mind, the screen instantly changed and a window popped up. Name, Liu Gendare. Male age, 16, 21. Years old authorization level. Level 1 energy. 100 manufacturing system. None collected resources. None. This age, 16, refers to my physical age? Does 21 mean I was 21 before? Seeing this user information, Liu shook his head. All right, this information is really simple. Even the household register is more detailed than this. Let's see what's in the system template. With a thought, the system template was opened. Exchange system template. Lucky draw system template. Game system template. Custom template. Seeing these system templates, Liu smiled. Other than the 3 common system templates, there are also custom templates? Does this mean that I can create any system I want? What's the resource vault? Liu opened the resource vault, but found nothing inside. What's the function of the resource vault? Unable to figure out anything, Liu directly asked the system. The resource vault is where the system stores resources. It has the ability to search, collect, decompose, refine, integrate, analyze, and manufacture. It can also retrieve the customer's exchanged resources in time. Customer. Liu is stunned. You mean I have to find a customer and sell the system I create? The main business of the system shopping mall is to sell all kinds of systems. Ah! Liu opened his mouth wide and could not close it for a long time. Is this the rhythm of turning me into an old grandpa? Giving the protagonist a golden finger? Supporting characters can also be given a golden finger? Ha ha ha, this is interesting. That's a matter for the future. Let's create the most awesome system for myself first. Liu happily opened the workbench. Of course, the more awesome the system I create for myself, the better. Liu looked at the workbench and began to order the system. System. Add all 3 templates into the system. He added in all the items that could be exchanged in the myriad worlds. Fix the price of all exchangeable items to 0. Set all skills to the highest level by adding 1 point. Insufficient authority, insufficient resources, insufficient energy. This order cannot be executed. You can't even do such a small thing. What's the use of having you? Chapter 3. Insufficient authority, insufficient energy, insufficient resources. Seeing these 3 shortcomings, Liu shook his head helplessly. So this is a blank system. In a system store, the resources are blank, the energy is only 100, and his authority is only level 1. So, everything has just started. It is still too early to reach the rich life of use 1, throw away 1. Mission activated. Main mission released. Main mission. User becomes a famous system supplier in the universe. Let the universe store live up to its name. Initial mission. Create a system and sell the created system in the myriad worlds. Mission time limit. 1 year. Mission reward. Authority upgrade. There is still a mission? A series of quests suddenly popped up in his mind, giving Liu a fright. What is this myriad worlds? Universe is the destination of the user's system sale. Initial mission activated. Please draw the initial mission destination. It's starting so soon. Liu curled his lips, waved his hand, and said, draw it. I'd like to see what kind of worlds these myriad worlds are. Destination drawing. A roulette wheel appeared. In the middle of the roulette wheel is a pointer, surrounded by countless fan-shaped grids. Heaven Shrouding, Warbreaker, Immortal Rebel, Zhu Xian. Seeing the words displayed in the fan-shaped grids, Liu opened his mouth wide for a long time. These are all the places I want to sell systems. These worlds are all very dangerous, and each of them is decisive. Am I really going to sell systems and not give them away? With my strength, as an ordinary person, won't I be casually crushed to death after going there? The roulette will spun rapidly. The rotation speed is extremely fast. The entire roulette wheel is a blur. Stop. Since I have to choose one, let's try my luck. Liu helplessly shook his head and casually shouted to stop. As soon as his voice fell, the roulette will instantly stop. The pointer of the roulette will suddenly pointed. It's actually this world. This world water is so deep. Seeing the destination the pointer pointed to, Liu's forehead broke out in cold sweat. His body lit up slightly. An invisible pulling force enveloped his body. Liu was shocked. It's starting already? I didn't even brush my teeth. Buzz, a white light flashed, and Liu's figure disappeared in an instant. In front of him was a bustling modern city. It was early evening, and the street was bustling with people. There was an endless stream of cars and carriages on the road, and the gorgeous neon lights shone brightly. What a familiar smell. Liu stood on the road and looked at the familiar scene in front of him. He listened to the surrounding noise and the sound of car horns. Suddenly, he felt a little excited. Even the haze in the sky seemed so familiar. What a pity, Liu let out a long sigh. This world looked very similar, but in fact, it was not the world in his heart. Beep. D. The car horn sounded again. A man's voice followed. Hey, you're blocking the way. Are you leaving or not? Liu was stunned. Only then did he realize that he was standing in the middle of the road, blocking the car behind him. Yi Fan, it's fine. We're not in a hurry. A woman rolled down the window, revealing a smiling face as she said to Liu, Student, are you all right? It's dangerous for you to stand on the road like this. Go home early. Liu looked like he was only in his teens, so this woman naturally treated him as a student. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Only then did Liu come back to his senses. He hurriedly apologized to the people in the Mercedes-Benz and retreated to the side of the road, making way for them. Why are you dressed like this? Junior high school students these days. TSK Tisk. The driver called Yi Fan glanced at Liu, shook his head, and sped away. Hearing this, Liu was so depressed that he almost vomited blood. Looking at the green clothes on his body, Liu sighed helplessly. What the hell is this system? You didn't even tell me when you teleported. Let me change my clothes. Wait, Yi Fan? Could this person be the main character? The one who later became the Heavenly Emperor? Liu looked at the Mercedes-Benz that was already far away, and the corner of his mouth curled up into a smile. Yi Hei, do you know that just because you said something about me just now, a peerless opportunity slipped away from your hands? Coming to this world, Liu's mission was to sell the system. Originally, Liu had thought of selling the system to the main character, Yi Fan, so that his journey would be smoother. Now that Yi Fan had spoken to him, Liu immediately dispelled this idea. I've never been a kind person, so, Yi Hei, the system doesn't have your share. Liu chuckled a few times and hurriedly left under the gazes of the passers-by who were looking at him as if he was crazy. According to the original plot, the current time should be when Yi Fan gathers his classmates and sends them to the hotel. In other words, there's still 3 days before the real plot begins. As he walked, Liu pondered in his mind. As for the strange gazes of the passers-by, Liu didn't care at all. What's wrong with the green robe? Although it was a bit retro, although it was a bit uncommon, but I'm filming. I haven't changed my costume yet. Well, after being surrounded by a few children, Liu had no choice but to explain. Fortunately, the child's parents quickly carried the child away, and only then did Liu escape. Since I've come to this world, I naturally have to become stronger as soon as possible. The most important thing now is to create the system. Liu found a bench by the side of the road and sat down. He opened the system's workbench and planned to create the system. First of all, I have to give the system a grand name. Without a grand name, his acting skills instantly dropped by half. So, the system is named the Book of the Highest Heavens. Since it is a heavenly book, the appearance of the system will be a sparkling and translucent purple bamboo scroll. Following Liu's order, the appearance of a purple bamboo scroll instantly appeared on the workbench. The purple bamboo scroll was sparkling like jade, and the 4 simple and vigorous seal characters Book of the Highest Heavens were engraved on it. A mysterious and elegant aura leaped out from it. Very good. This appearance is already very intimidating. Liu glanced at the scroll and nodded. Next is the system's function. There must be a mission. As the mastermind behind the scenes, how can I order the host without a mission? However, this mission must also be in line with the host's life goals. Then, the main mission, the path of the Great Emperor. On the purple bamboo scroll, a bamboo scroll lit up, and the system's mission began to be recorded. Mission description. The path of the Great Emperor begins with conquest. A general success is built on the bones of thousands. The path of the Great Emperor is one where there is no retreat. Only by stepping on countless corpses can one reach the peak of this world. The purple bamboo scroll recorded the main mission, and Liu smiled. The main mission has been recorded, so I can arrange the remaining side missions as I wish. When the time comes, I can add them as I wish. The mission system has been completed. Next is to set up the other functions. Chapter 4. As a system, it must have some basic functions. First, it must monitor the host's body data in real time. Therefore, there must be a function to display the host's attributes. Another bamboo scroll lit up on the purple bamboo scroll. Host's attributes, basic items, name, gender, age, race. Extended items, special physique, cultivation level, cultivation method, skill. Other than that, the system must have the ability to communicate and answer the host's questions. When setting up this function, Liu rolled his eyes and gave another command. Set me as the person with the highest authority in the system. The system host can only have one level of authority and hide this. Selling the system and being a grandpa. This was also a very dangerous profession. Who knew if those system hosts would turn into ingrates in the end? Of course, he had to leave a backup plan. Next is the main function of a system. The main function of a system is exchange. Another bamboo scroll lit up, and Liu began to set up the functions of the exchange system. After all, I'm not a selfless grandpa. This system must ultimately work for my benefit. If the host wants to exchange items in the system, he must use other resources to exchange for energy points to exchange for the items he needs. At this point, Liu suddenly thought of a problem and hurriedly added, for the same item, the exchange rate will be 1. Who knew if someone would purposely test the exchange rate of the system? If he used the same item to exchange, wouldn't he immediately discover that the system was doubling the price? For the exchange items, cultivation method, secret manual exchange, bloodline physique exchange, pill exchange, material exchange, weapon exchange, skill exchange, miscellaneous exchange. That's all for now. I'll add more in the future. Exchange rate? Set the exchange rate based on the energy used to create the item. Isn't it too cruel to increase the price by 10 times? Then let's double it. Oh, right. The price of cultivation method secret manuals is set according to the price of weapons. For knowledge exchange, the energy used is less, so the price can't be too low. The bamboo scrolls entered the exchange items one by one, and by the time Liu finished speaking, 9 bamboo scrolls had lit up. Basically, it's almost done. Liu looked at the bamboo scrolls and nodded with a smile. That's it, let's create it. Book of the Highest Heavens system setup complete. Creating system. System creation complete. Ding! In his mind, a multicolored light shot out from the workbench, and a purple bamboo scroll appeared from the light. Discovered a new system book of the highest heavens. Connecting to the system store. Connection complete. System template book of the highest heavens has been recorded. Congratulations to the user for successfully creating the book of the highest heavens system. The Myriad Heavens System Store has automatically recorded all the functions of the book of the highest heavens. Haha, that's great. Liu couldn't help but laugh when he heard that the system had automatically come with all the functions of the book of the highest heavenly scripture. Open the book of the highest heaven system, and let me see if these functions are useful or not. Voila! A purple bamboo scroll slowly unfolded in his mind. Personal attributes. Name. Liu, gender. Male. Age. 16. Race. Human. Special constitution. None. Cultivation level. None. Cultivation method. None. Skills. None. What the F asterisk CK? It's all nothing. Liu pursed his lips. Open the exchange system. The scroll opened, and several bamboo scrolls appeared. Exchange for cultivation method secret manuals, bloodline constitution, pills, materials, weapons, equipment, skills, miscellaneous items. A series of exchanges appeared before his eyes. However, why is it empty? Why is there nothing inside? Looking at the empty exchange system, Liu was dumbfounded. Insufficient resources, unable to record resources in the exchange system. Insufficient resources? Upon hearing that there were insufficient resources, Liu quickly thought of the empty resource vault. Judging from this situation, all the resources needed to create the system came from the system store's resource vault. How do I obtain resources from the resource vault? Liu frowned slightly. He hoped that this resource wasn't too difficult to obtain. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. The system store's resource vault has the ability to search for and record resources. Do you want to activate the Resource Vault scan? Activate. Of course, activate. Li Yu ordered the system. He muttered to himself. Why didn't you tell me earlier that you have such a function? Insufficient energy. Resource Vault scan cannot be activated. Scan failed. Insufficient energy. Li Yu was stunned. He quickly opened the user profile and saw that the number displayed behind the energy item had changed from 100 to 20. Only 20 energy points? What's going on? Traveling between worlds consumes 50 energy points. Creating the Book of the Highest Heaven consumes 30 energy points. Current energy points are 20. User, please replenish energy as soon as possible. All right, everything is difficult at the beginning. Li Yu took a deep breath and calmed himself down. He asked the system, how do I replenish energy? All materials and energy can be collected through the Resource Vault function to obtain energy. Is that so? Li Yu frowned and looked up at the sky. That thing should have enough energy. Li Yu smiled and stood up. A trip to Mount Tai is not bad. Just as he stood up, Li Yu's expression changed again. But I have no money. This time it's really over. It's less than 3 days before the plot begins. I have to get to Mount Tai before then. Otherwise, it's all over. System, if I specify to scan something, can you activate the Resource Vault function? Yes. User, please specify the item to be scanned. Phew. Li Yu heaved a sigh of relief. Using my current location as the reference, specify to scan a 100 RMB note. Consume 1 energy point. Scan complete. Scan of a 100 RMB note completed. It has been entered into the miscellaneous item of the exchange system. Miscellaneous item? Li Yu laughed. All right, to the system, this thing was indeed just a miscellaneous item. Exchange 10,000 RMB. Why? A stack of bright red banknotes appeared in Li Yu's hand. Li Yu picked it up and shook it a few times before putting it away. Exchanging 10,000 RMB notes only consumes 1/10,000th of the energy. This money is really worthless. With money, Li Yu did not need to worry anymore. After finding a good hotel, Li Yu planned to get a room to sleep. When he checked into the room, he realized that he did not have an ID card. Luckily, banknotes could replace an ID card. After stuffing a stack of banknotes, Li Yu successfully got the room card. Next, it's time to go to Mount Tai. Li Yu pushed open the window of the room and looked up at the starry night sky. A smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. That thing should be falling soon. Chapter 5. Climbing Mount Tai is like a small world. Li Yu couldn't help but exclaim in admiration when he saw the towering mountain in front of him and its majestic aura. Although Li Yu had lived in this country in his previous life, he had never seen the 5 great mountains with his own eyes. Now that he was in a different world, he actually had the chance to see the magnificence of Dongyue. Li Yu was a little dazed for a moment. Hello. A burly foreigner with a height of over 190 centimeters suddenly appeared beside Li Yu and spoke to Li Yu with a smile on his face. Li Yu helplessly spread out his hands, indicating that he didn't understand what he was saying. I'm Li Xiaoman, and he's Cade. We came to Mount Tai for a tour. Just now, he said that your attire is very special. He asked if you're a member of the clergy or a Taoist priest. A tall and beautiful woman with fair skin walked over and explained to Li Yu with a smile. This woman was close to 170 centimeters tall and had a tall and graceful figure. After Li Yu became younger, his height also decreased. This woman was almost taller than Li Yu when she stood up. Taoist priest? It seems that the status of a Taoist priest is not bad. Li Yu nodded with a smile and made a decision in an instant. This barbarian is quite knowledgeable. I, the Grand Supreme, have always been cultivating outside the world. This barbarian language is somewhat incomprehensible. Li Xiaoman's expression was sluggish. She stared at Li Yu with wide eyes and giggled. You're just a kid, yet you're still acting? Grand Supreme? Barbarian? Can't you speak properly? Do you know who the Grand Supreme is? Li Xiaoman swept a glance at Li Yu and couldn't help but laugh again. Look at your attire. Your green clothes aren't even a Taoist robe, okay? And with short hair, why are you pretending to be a Taoist priest? Which junior high school are you from? Why are your English grades so bad? Hee hee. Liu smiled indifferently and walked away. After taking 2 steps, he suddenly made a sound of surprise and looked back at Li Xiaoman. He frowned slightly with a serious expression on his face. What's wrong? Li Xiaoman saw Liu's expression and was stunned for a moment. She looked at herself but didn't find anything wrong with her. Little girl, it's fate. Eyes are warning you. You have a baleful aura between your eyebrows, and a baleful aura is rushing into your palace. This Mount Tai, it's better not to climb. Liu's tone was old and experienced. He had an unfathomable look on his face as he looked at Li Xiaoman with pity. What? You're actually scaring me? Li Xiaoman pretended to be fierce. You're still calling me a little girl? Sister is at least 10 years older than you. You're looking for a beating. Sigh. If you don't listen to your elders, you'll suffer. Liu shook his head and sighed. Xiaoman? Who is this youth dressed in special clothes? A well-dressed young man walked over with a confident and refined smile on his face. Zhou, come take a look. This young man is very interesting. Li Xiaoman turned her head to look at Zhou and greeted him with a smile. Is that so? Zhou walked over and nodded to Li Xiaoman and Cade. Then, he looked at Liu with a smile. Your outfit is quite interesting. The ancient wind is so strong. This is Zhou In the original work, although this Zhou was just a side character, he was determined and shrewd. He was a very good candidate for a host. Liu smiled and nodded at Zhou secretly thinking in his heart. At this time, the others also slowly walked over. Look, Fan, wasn't this youth in ancient clothes the one who blocked the way last time? He also came to Mount Tai. It does look a bit like it. The baleful aura is so strong. Now that everyone was here, it was time to give Zhou a deeper impression. Liu deliberately frowned and glanced at the crowd. He shook his head and sighed. So it's fate. The 9 dragons had arrived, and the Emperor's Road was about to open. Was it the time for another great battle? On the Emperor's Road, there are corpses everywhere. I wonder who will be able to reach the top. Zhou looked at Liu with a puzzled expression. What are you talking about? Why are you so mysterious? The Emperor's aura is hidden, like a dragon hidden in the abyss. Liu suddenly raised his head and stared at Zhou. His eyes did not blink, as if there was endless mystery swirling in his eyes. Why are you looking at me? Zhou smiled and turned to look at Li Xiaoman. You're right, this young man is really strange. Liu turned a deaf ear to this and extended his finger as if he was calculating something. So that's how it is. A moment later, Liu stopped calculating and looked at Zhou with a smile. Your surname is Zhou? The surname Zhou comes from the surname Ji. So you are the descendant of the great emperor. Very good. Descendant of the great emperor? Me? That's interesting. Zhou pointed to his nose and couldn't help but laugh. The 9 dragons have arrived, and the Emperor's Road is about to open. This journey is dangerous, so you must be careful. I will take my leave now. Liu put on an act and cupped his fist before turning around and leaving. As his long sleeves fluttered, there seemed to be a hint of the demeanor of an expert. What did he mean by that? Zhou, he turned his head to look at Li Xiaoman, feeling a little baffled. Who knows? Just now, he said that I have a great tribulation today. Li Xiaoman shook her head. Let's not care about him. Let's go. Let's tour Mount Tai. Later, Zhou and the others toured Mount Tai all the way. Unknowingly, they had arrived at Jade Emperor Peak. The sun was setting. Standing on Jade Emperor Peak, overlooking the earth and looking at the mountains and rivers in the distance, everyone only felt that their hearts were open. The troubles in life and the depression in work seemed to have disappeared. When one stands at the top, all the mountains are small. Sure enough, everyone was admiring while admiring, but they did not notice a black shadow falling from the sky above. Boom! Boom! A huge sound broke through the air, causing a series of sonic booms. Everyone looked up at the sky in amazement. They saw 9 pitch-black dragons descending from the sky. The dragons seemed to be dragging something behind them. Dragons? At this moment, everyone near Mount Tai who saw this scene was stunned. Weren't dragons just a legend? How could there be dragons descending from the sky? 9 dragons? Zhou Yi looked up at the 9 black dragons that were constantly falling and suddenly remembered Li Yu's words. The 9 dragons have arrived, and the Emperor's Road is about to open. What that young man said is actually true. On Mount Tai, it was a mess at this moment. Countless people cried and screamed in panic, screaming in fear and fleeing in embarrassment. Zhou Yi and his group were also fleeing, running frantically to escape. Even though Zhou Yi had some faint expectations for the 9 black dragons descending from the sky, he was also fleeing. When this thing came crashing down, it didn't care who you were. Boom! An earth-shattering boom rang out. 9 huge black dragons, dragging the bronze coffin, smashed down heavily. The violent shock was like an earthquake. Dust flew all around, and gravel splashed everywhere. It's finally here. Amidst the flying dust, Li Yu was all smiles as he walked towards the huge bronze coffin being dragged by the 9 dragons. After opening the resource collection function of the system's resource library, an invisible black hole appeared around Li Yu. The shock wave and splashing gravel rushed to Li Yu and disappeared. It's him. What is he doing? While escaping, Zhou Yi turned his head to look at the place where the 9 dragons fell, but he saw Li Yu walking towards the bronze coffin. The violent shock had no effect on Li Yu. The splashing gravel disappeared within 1 meter of him. He is really not an ordinary person. Zhou Yi took a deep breath and remembered what Li Yu had said to him. Am I the descendant of the great emperor? Zhou Yi clenched his fist tightly, and something called ambition slowly grew in his heart. Chapter 6. He actually encountered a great calamity. The Jade Emperor peak gradually calmed down. Li Xiaoman pressed down on her pounding heart and panted heavily. The dangerous scene she had just experienced left Li Xiaoman in a state of shock. She recalled Li Yu's words and secretly rejoiced in her heart. Fortunately, I escaped this calamity. Who exactly was that young man? He said his name was Grand Elder? Supreme. This name, Li Xiaoman shook her head and slowly stood up while supporting herself on the ground. Is anyone hurt? I'm fine. It's just a few scratches. It's good that everyone is fine. While it's calm now, let's leave this place quickly. Leave. Zhou Yi's heart tightened. Just now, when he heard Li Yu's words, he thought of the Emperor's Road and the great Emperor's descendant. Did he think that the descent of the 9 dragons had something to do with him? Of course, he was definitely overthinking it. However, Zhou Yi was already looking forward to the 9 dragons that had descended from the sky and was unwilling to leave so easily. Raising his head to look at the place where the 9 dragons had fallen, Zhou Yi's eyes went blank, and he couldn't help but shout, "Look!" That's following Zhou Yi's exclamation. Everyone looked over at the same time. This. Am I seeing things? Could it be an immortal? Everyone looked at the place where the 9 dragons had fallen and immediately cried out in alarm. The place where the 9 dragons had fallen was filled with multicolored light. A youth dressed in green floated in the sky, filled with multicolored light. His entire body was overflowing with light and color, as if a god had descended to the mortal world. It's him? Li Xiaoman opened her eyes wide in surprise. This person is actually not a mortal? Supreme. Supreme. Could it be that he really is? Li Fan. We've seen this person before. It's him? Is this person really an immortal? Li Fan Xian looked at the figure in the multicolored light in surprise, his face full of disbelief. He must be an immortal. Did he say that I was the descendant of the great emperor? Zhou Yi clenched his fists, his heart burning with passion. It's just as I expected. Li Yu floated above the bronze coffin, watching the system continuously extract the energy of the small, immortal world from a coffin. Li Yu was overjoyed, extracting the energy of the small, immortal world in the coffin, activating the resource scan. Resource scanning activated. Scanning commencing. Amidst the endless rays of light, an invisible wave spread out, instantly sweeping through the Earth, the solar system, the Milky Way, An invisible ripple swept across the entire universe. At this moment, the hearts of countless mighty beings in the entire world shuddered, as though something horrifying had just happened. He carefully calculated, but he had no clue. Resource scanning complete. Resource recording complete. So fast, Liu was slightly surprised and quickly opened the system to check. Immortal True Dragon Elixir, Zero Beginning Sutra, Great Void Mirror. Innate Saint Body. The corners of Liu's mouth curled up when he saw the dazzling array of mystic arts and secret techniques, the various bloodlines and physiques, and the various heavenly materials and earthly treasures that glittered with spiritual light. Immortal! Immortal! A scream interrupted Liu's excitement. Seeing that the system was still extracting the energy from the celestial realm inside the bronze coffin, Liu suddenly woke up. Stop! Stop absorbing energy! Liu's expression was a little unnatural, and his back began to sweat. The celestial realm inside the bronze coffin is the key to repairing the celestial realm. If I swallow the celestial realm, I'll definitely die. Fortunately, the system immediately stopped extracting energy, and the endless rays of light dissipated, allowing Liu to breathe a sigh of relief. Looking up and seeing Zhou, Yi, and the others who were still stunned in front of him, Liu's mouth curled into a smile. With a thought, he opened the system in exchange for a flying skill. A ray of light circulated. Liu instantly disappeared from the bronze coffin and appeared in front of Zhou, Yi, and the others. Everyone was so scared that they retreated for a while. Immortal! Immortal? Li Xiaoman looked at Liu, who suddenly flew over, and her eyeballs almost fell out. Are you really an immortal? That thing, did you summon it? Zhou Yi's heart was burning. This person was really an immortal. He even said that he was the descendant of the great emperor. Would he accept him as a disciple? Would he give him an immortal pill? 9 dragons fall to the ground, and the emperor's road opens. Everyone is a fated person. Liu stood with his hands behind his back and nodded to everyone with a smile. Since we are fated, then let me give you a greeting gift. Liu used a little energy and exchanged it for some spiritual energy. With a gentle wave of his hand, spiritual energy fell like rain and merged into everyone's body. Wow, it's so comfortable. Look, my abrasions just now have healed. My cervical vertebra doesn't hurt anymore. Immortal technique. It's really an immortal. Thank you, great immortal. Thank you, great immortal. Everyone was surprised and delighted. They looked at Liu with excitement and eagerness. Everyone is a fated person. This is just a greeting gift. Liu smiled and nodded. He glanced at everyone and said, I have a great opportunity in my hands. I wonder if everyone is interested? Yes, 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 of course. There must be. Immortal touched my head and tied my hair to immortality. Great immortal, please give us the opportunity. Hearing Liu's words, everyone was eager and began to ask for the opportunity. I wonder what kind of opportunity the great immortal is talking about. Zhou, he took a step forward and seemed to be determined to get this opportunity. Great immortal, please enlighten us. A young man named Lu Yunji also took a step forward and seemed to have some hostility toward Zhou Yi. Opportunity? Liu smiled and bent down to pick up a piece of gravel from the ground. He held it in his palm and placed it in front of everyone. This is the so-called opportunity. Lu Yunji's face changed slightly, and he was secretly angry. It's obviously a stone picked up from the ground. What kind of opportunity is this? Is he playing with me? Could it be that the great immortal is testing us? Could it be that he turned the stone into gold? That stone is actually gold? Tisk. Such a small stone, even if it's gold, it's not worth much. Seeing the stone in Liu's hand, everyone was talking at once. Great immortal, this stone. Can you give it to me? Zhou Yi's heart was beating very fast. I can't give it to you for free. Liu shook his head at Zhou Yi. If you want this stone, you must pay the price. Price? Zhou Yi was shocked and became a little uneasy. I have to pay the price? Hearing Liu's words, other people who were also a little interested were a little retreating. Everyone present was an adult. Their thoughts were more complicated and they thought more. They were a little distrustful of Li Yu's so-called opportunity. Great immortal, I wonder what kind of price I have to pay? Zhou Yi's thoughts turned for a while, and he seemed to have made a decision. He raised his head and asked Li Yu, "Have you decided?" Li Yu looked at Zhou Yi with a faint smile. "I've decided." Zhou Yi nodded firmly. "Ha ha!" Li Yu laughed loudly. Good temperament. Good decision. You have to give up something to gain something. Young man, I'm optimistic about you. Li Yu threw the stone in his hand into Zhou Yi's hand. When you arrive at the Great Lane Temple, remember to sacrifice the Bodhi tree to me. After speaking, a ray of light rose and Li Yu floated away. May I ask for the great immortal's name? Zhou Yi shouted from afar. Indoor alchemy. Mixing the elements, the medicine in the furnace seizes the innate. Becoming a guest of the Bayuing Palace, forgetting the tens of thousands of years in the human world. In the ray of light, there was a faint sound of a long song. In the blink of an eye, he flew away and disappeared. Sure enough, he's an expert. Zhou Yi sighed with a face full of longing. Please recommend me. Please support me. I will give you a system when the time comes. Whatever system you want, I will make one for you. Chapter 7. A ray of light flashed by. At the foot of Mount Amei, Li Yu appeared. Wah! Li Yu held onto a boulder by the side of the mountain and vomited. What the hell? I almost lost half my life trying to show off. After a while, Li Yu straightened up with a pale face and gasped for breath with his mouth wide open. Some people get carsick, some get seasick, and some get airsick. I can't believe I got airsick. My physique is really bad. Li Yu smiled bitterly and shook his head. Just now, in order to show off, he had rushed thousands of miles from Dongyue to Mount Shu. The escape light was indeed powerful. He had covered thousands of miles in an instant. The problem was that Li Yu's body couldn't take it. Looks like I have to improve my strength. Even I can't bear to see such a weakling like him. Li Yu smiled and got up to find a place to sit down. Then he opened the system. The system store automatically recorded all the functions of the heavenly book of Taishan. Therefore, Li Yu could exchange for all the resources scanned by the system. First, physique. My physique is really bad. Then I'll exchange for a strong physique. After opening the system and seeing the dazzling array of items in the resource warehouse, Li Yu beamed with joy. What physique should I exchange for? Sacred physique? Or innate sacred physique? If it was a sacred physique, although the body was strong, it was too difficult to cultivate. The innate sacred physique had all the advantages of sacred physique. It also had the advantage of connecting with the Tao of heaven and earth. I'll choose this one. Exchange for the innate sacred physique. 30 energy points consumed. Exchange commencing. Ah, the intense pain made Li Yu howl in pain. A magma-like heat flow exploded violently in Li Yu's body. Every inch of his body was in pain. It was as if his whole body was being completely crushed and then rebuilt bit by bit. Fortunately, it didn't take long. The process of rebuilding his body was soon over. However, these few minutes were longer than 10,000 years for Li Yu. Huff! Whoosh! Li Yu wiped the sweat off his forehead and panted heavily. He still had a lingering fear from the experience just now. After suffering so much, I wonder how effective it is. After recovering, Li Yu began to examine the changes in his body. Casually moving his arms and legs, Li Yu could feel the surging power within his body. An unprecedented feeling of power filled his heart. Huh, good, very good. I'm no longer a weakling. Li Yu patted his chest, clenched his fists, bent his arms, and struck the pose of a bodybuilder. Then he chuckled again. Turning his head, Li Yu found a rock by the side of the mountain and walked over with a smile. Let's see if we can lift it up. Bending down, he reached out and grabbed the two corners of the stone. Exerting his strength, he lifted the stone up with ease. So easy? This rock is at least 400 or 500 caddies, right? Bang! Li Yu threw the stone away. He waved his arm and laughed again. The problem of my physique has been solved. Now, I have to find a cultivation technique to cultivate. The cultivation technique suitable for this physique is naturally the primeval scripture. Opening the system, Liu prepared to exchange for the primeval scripture. I just exchanged for the innate sacred body Tao fetus and consumed 30 points of energy. I wonder how much energy I have left. Thinking of this, Liu quickly checked the energy data. 1,853 energy points? There's actually so much. It seems that I don't have to worry about not having enough energy for a short period of time. Since I don't lack energy, I'll exchange for the primeval scripture. Energy consumed, 10 points. Beginning exchange. Countless words and images poured into Liu's mind like flowing water. Liu groaned, his face slightly pale. I really can't take so much information at once. Fortunately, my physique has become stronger. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll have a headache for a while. Liu rubbed his forehead and sat down with his back against a mountain rock. After exchanging for the physique, I also have a cultivation technique. I'm not in a hurry to cultivate. Let's see how the situation is with Zhou Yi first. Connect me to the Book of the Highest Heavens system. Liu gave the order, and the system instantly connected to the Book of the Highest Heavens, displaying all the situations around Zhou Yi in Liu's eyes. Jade Emperor Peak. Zhou Yi stretched out his hand to hold a stone and stood on the field. Zhou Yi, congratulations on obtaining the immortal opportunity. Lu Yunji walked up with a meaningful smile on his face. What kind of immortal opportunity is it? Take it out and let us see. That's right. That's right. Zhou, you don't hide it anymore. Take it out and let us see it. That's right. Where's the immortal opportunity? Let us broaden our horizons. The other people around him also chimed in one after another. What immortal opportunity. Do you really believe it? Zhou, he shook the stone in his hand, shook his head, and smiled. Isn't this just a stone? He even picked it up from the ground in front of everyone. That immortal was obviously teasing me. It's just a game in the human world. Zhou Yi, you're not being honest. Lu Yunji's eyes flashed with an inexplicable light. We're all classmates. I'll only be happy for you if you get the benefits. It's outrageous to hide it. Everyone, don't you think so? That's right. Zhou Yi, you're not being honest. So stingy. What do you mean? He's going to become an immortal. How could he still put us in his eyes? Sour voices of condemnation rose and fell one after another. The smile on Zhou Yi's face was still very gentle, and his gentle and elegant posture did not diminish in the slightest. Of course, he knew that Lu Yunji was up to no good. He also knew that these people were jealous, but with his shrewdness, he would naturally remain calm. It's really just a stone. If you want to see it, then take it. Zhou Yi didn't care about the stone in his hand and casually threw it to Lu Yunji. Liu hid the Book of the Highest Heavens system in this stone. When Zhou Yi took the stone, the system had already entered his mind. This stone was really just a stone. Zhou Yi's action was unexpected. Lu Yunji took the stone in a daze and looked at it carefully in front of his eyes. In the end, he found that it was really just a stone. Could it be that the method is wrong? Lu Yunji thought of many plots and novels. He quickly bit his middle finger and smeared the blood on the stone. However, a stone was still a stone. When Zhou Yi saw Lu Yunji's action, he sneered in his heart and said, "Maybe I don't have enough opportunities. This immortal fate is not fated with me. I don't know if others will have this opportunity." That's right. Didn't that immortal say that we are all fated? Lu Yunji, show it to me. And me. And me. Count me in. A group of people shouted at once. Lu Yunji had no choice but to hand the stone over. The stone went around in a circle in the crowd. Almost everyone looked at it once. They thought of all kinds of methods, but they found nothing. It must be that immortal teasing us. Aren't there many immortals who play an immortal world in stories? This must be an ordinary stone. In the end, the stone returned to Zhou Yi's hands. Zhou, he said to everyone, and threw the stone to the ground. That's probably it. Everyone sighed helplessly. Look, over there, what's that? Li Xiaoman suddenly pointed to the place where the 9 dragons fell and shouted in surprise. Everyone quickly looked over and saw a dazzling 5-colored brilliance rushing up from a huge 5-colored stone platform where the 9 dragons fell. A huge Tai Chi pattern appeared out of thin air. The two yin and yang fish in the Tai Chi pattern kept trembling, as if they were slowly opening a door. Immortal fate. That's the real immortal fate. Lu Yunji suddenly shouted and rushed towards the place where the 9 dragons had fallen. Yes, yes, this is the real immortal fate. Quick, quick, let's go. Everyone looked at the place where the 9 dragons fell. Their hearts suddenly became hot, and they rushed over. The 9 dragons fell to the ground, and the Emperor Road has been opened. Is this the Emperor Road that the immortal talked about? Zhou Yi's eyes lit up, and he also rushed toward the place where the 9 dragons fell. Buzz, an invisible force swept everyone into the bronze coffin, and the coffin closed with a clang. Boom! The 5-color divine light penetrated heaven and earth and went straight into the sky. The 9 dragons pulling the coffin rushed into the door in the Tai Chi pattern and disappeared. Good. The curtains have been drawn, and the show is about to begin. When Liu saw this scene, he immediately laughed out loud. Chapter 8. Inside the dark bronze coffin. Zhou Yi did not panic like the others. He just leaned against the coffin wall and sat down quietly. His mind sank into his mind. In his mind, a quaint and elegant purple bamboo scroll floated, flickering with endless purple light. Book of the Highest Heavens. Zhou Yi came from extraordinary background and was not unfamiliar with ancient texts. When he saw these words, he associated it with a long song when Liu left. Zhou Yi had a faint guess about Liu's identity. The highest. Could it be the Tao ancestor? Zhou Yi took a deep breath, and his heart beat faster. Book of the Highest Heavens. Could it be that this is the inheritance that the Tao ancestor gave me? Zhou Yi's heart was on fire, and he quickly focused his mind on the purple bamboo scroll. Dang! A melodious and deep bell sounded in his mind. As the purple light flowed all over the sky, the purple bamboo scroll slowly opened. Zhou Yi, this kid is opening the system? Near Shu Mountain, Liu suddenly heard the system prompt. The host is activating the Book of the Highest Heavens. Liu chuckled. Grandpa is officially online. Then I'll tease you first. With a thought, Liu used the system connection to take over the Book of the Highest Heavens system and transformed into an old grandpa. In Zhou Yi's mind, the purple bamboo scroll slowly opened. At the beginning of primordial chaos, Tao is the first. Purple Qi comes from the east for 30,000 miles. Han Pass has been at first for 5,000 years. A long song sounded. In the endless purple light, an old man with a quaint appearance rode a green ox and leisurely stepped on the purple light. Tao, ancestor. Seeing such a scene, even if Zhou Yi was mentally prepared, he was still tongue-tied and stunned. This old man riding a green ox was naturally Liu, who was pretending to be mysterious. This system connection function can even set the image displayed at will. It's really interesting. Liu snickered in his heart and played even more enthusiastically. I'm the highest heavens. Young man, are you the one who got this opportunity? The descendant of the great emperor? It seems that my incarnation didn't act recklessly. Liu smiled and nodded at Zhou Yi with the image of an old man riding a bull. He had white hair and a youthful appearance. His eyes were wise and far-sighted. He rode a green ox and stepped on a boundless purple cloud. With such an image, who else could it be but a Tao ancestor? Disciple Zhou Yi greets Tao ancestor. Zhou Yi did not have the slightest doubt and quickly greeted him respectfully. There's no need for such formalities. Liu smiled and waved his hand. Since you were able to obtain this opportunity, you are naturally blessed and have an extraordinary foundation. Speaking of this, Liu paused and turned his head to look at Zhou Yi. However, this opportunity is not something that ordinary people can control. You must have a heart as strong as iron, not fearing difficulties and dangers, and moving forward courageously. Young man, can you do it? I can do it, Zhou Yi answered resolutely. All right, Liu nodded in admiration. The 9 dragons have arrived, and the Emperor's road has been opened. Young man, You have already embarked on your journey. The battle of the great emperor is a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Young man, I hope you will not change your mind and set foot on the peak all the way. Dang! Another melodious chime rang out. In the flickering purple clouds, the old man had disappeared, leaving only an open purple bamboo scroll hanging high in his mind. On the purple bamboo scroll, the bamboo scrolls bloomed with brilliant brilliance, and information flowed into Zhou Yi's mind. This is... Zhou Yi was stunned when he saw the countless profound mystic techniques and secret techniques in the bamboo slips, the dazzling divine weapons, and the dazzling heavenly materials and earthly treasures. These can all be exchanged? Sure enough, it's a great opportunity. Zhou Yi was ecstatic in his heart, and his violently beating heart almost jumped out of his chest. Clang! The giant bronze coffin shook violently. A violent sense of weightlessness surged, and everyone in the coffin let out a sharp and ear-piercing scream. Am I falling? Zhou Yi endured the discomfort in his heart, supported the bronze coffin wall, and firmly fixed his body. Boom! There was a violent shock, like a thunderclap. Everyone in the bronze coffin had clearly felt a huge collision with the giant bronze coffin. Surprisingly, as soon as the impact was born, the bronze coffin wall lit up with a faint light, offsetting the impact that was like a falling meteorite. We've arrived at Mars already? This Nine Dragons pulling coffin is quite fast. Liu saw this scene through the system and grinned. Since we've arrived at Mars, let's start issuing missions. Liu's heart stirred, and the Book of the Highest Heavens in Zhou Yi's mind instantly reacted. Main mission activated. Main mission, the road to the Great Emperor. Mission description. The road to the Great Emperor begins with conquest. A general success is built on thousands of bones. On the road to the Great Emperor, there is no retreat. Only by stepping on countless corpses can one reach the peak of this world. This is a series of voices sounded in his mind, and Zhou Yi's whole body shook, almost crying out in surprise. There's actually a mission? What exactly is this Book of the Highest Heavens? Zhou Yi rubbed his temples and only felt a slight headache. The Book of the Highest Heavens is an extraordinary item that the Tao ancestor obtained by chance and refined in the 8 trigrams furnace. The origin of this item is mysterious and unpredictable, and even the Tao ancestor does not know its origin. The Book of the Highest Heavens is useless to the Tao ancestor, so it is left for the fated person. It's actually like this. Hearing this explanation, Zhou Yi also somewhat believed it. The Book of the Highest Heavens was obviously a system. It made sense that the Tao ancestor did not know its origin. The main mission, the road to the Great Emperor, has been activated. Does the host accept the mission? What will happen if I don't accept the mission? Zhou Yi was still a little nervous. For a scheming person like him, it was almost instinctive to be suspicious of everything. The significance of the Book of the Highest Heavens' existence is to assist the host in ascending to the position of the Great Emperor. If the host gives up the main mission, the system can only leave on its own and choose another host. It could be like this? Zhou Yi's heart tightened, and his eyes rolled a few times. If I accept the road to the Great Emperor mission, is it still possible for the system to leave? If the host accepts the main mission, the Book of the Highest Heavens system is bound to the host and cannot leave. If the host dies, the system will be destroyed. Phew! Zhou Yi exhaled a long breath and nodded secretly. The road to the Great Emperor? As the descendant of the Great Emperor, I naturally won't decline. I will accept this mission. Zhou Yi clenched his fists tightly. An endless fighting spirit rose in his heart. Set foot on the peak of this world? A real man should be like this. The host accepts the main mission, system binding. The purple bamboo scroll bloomed with a gorgeous light. A middle-aged man with the appearance of a civil official appeared from the light. Your subject, the spirit of the heavenly book, greets your majesty. After the middle-aged man with a high hat, wide belt, and long beard appeared, he raised his hands above his head and bowed deeply in front of Zhou Yi. Your Majesty, The road to the great emperor begins with conquest. Your Majesty, please purify the universe and wipe out the world's disloyal subjects. I will not decline. In this situation, even Zhou Yi, who had a deep temperament, felt his blood boiling all over. Ha ha, this is too fun. Liu secretly laughed in his heart. This so-called spirit of the heavenly book was naturally arranged by Liu. Joey, you were just a minor character in the original work and a minor character who had been doing nothing. Now, I have given you wings to soar. Turn this world upside down for me. Young man, move forward bravely. Liu pressed his stomach and laughed until he was out of breath. Chapter 9. I've given you such a huge cheat. Zhou Yi, don't disappoint me. Liu stopped laughing and glanced at the image displayed by the system. Next is the plot of the Tempest Temple. Liu patted the dust off his clothes and stood up. I can't stay idle either. Looking up at Mount Shu in front of him, Liu smiled. This place still has the orthodoxy left behind by Qi Song Zi. The orthodoxy is nothing to me, but the immortal sword Heavenly Lake is very extraordinary. The system scanned and recorded the information of this world's resources, but this was only information and not physical objects. To exchange for physical objects, the system had to consume energy to create the physical objects. If he directly received the physical objects, the objects would be stored in the resource warehouse in the form of physical objects. The exchange did not require energy. The immortal sword Heavenly Lake is the place where Qi Song Zi washed his sword and comprehended the sword. It contains endless sword Qi and supreme sword Dao true intent. These can be directly collected through the system. Good things can't be wasted. Liu soared into the sky and flew toward the immortal sword Heavenly Lake. When the system scanned the resource information, it automatically recorded the location of the resource. Liu followed the system's instructions and instantly arrived near the immortal sword Heavenly Lake. In front of him was a mountain peak that pierced the clouds. The steep mountain peak stood up like a long sword pointing to the sky. Buzz, the invisible sword Qi clanged. The sharp and cold sword Qi pierced through the clouds. What a guy! Even though he was still far away, Liu still felt as if his entire body was being cut by countless blades. System, collect this sword Qi. With Liu's current strength, he could not withstand this sword Qi. Moreover, if he continued forward, there would be an even more ferocious supreme sword intent. Liu did not have the guts to try a sword intent that could even kill sages. The system's resource collection function was very powerful. It could collect all materials and all energy. However, the collection of resources was continuous. It could not do anything about the sudden burst of power in battle. An invisible black hole appeared around Liu, and the sword Qi around him was continuously collected by the system. Without the threat of the sword Qi, the immortal sword Heavenly Lake was nothing more than a steep mountain peak. Liu leaped into the air and collected the sword Qi before rushing to the top of the mountain. There was a clear lake at the top of the mountain. The sparkling waves were not the light of water, but the boundless sword light. There were a few ancient pines by the lakeside, their branches intertwined like coiling old dragons, vigorous and ancient. There was a stone table under the ancient tree that was laid out like a crouching cow. Is this where Qi Song Zi comprehended the Tao? When Liu saw the scene at the peak of the mountain, he only felt a vast and unparalleled sword intent that could tear apart the heavens and cut through the clouds. It was as if there was nothing in the world that it could not cut through. What a powerful sword intent! Even with the system absorbing the sword Qi, Liu still felt a wave of terror when facing the sword insight. Qi Song Zi's sword insight is really formidable and invincible. Unfortunately, this kind of existence that could almost destroy the world still couldn't live forever. In the end, it could only helplessly pass away. The path to immortality in this world had already been cut off. Even if one became a great emperor, one would only live for 10,000 years. It was really a pity. This invincible sword insight this sword Tao that can break all techniques with a single sword. Let me show it its edge. Liu waved his sleeves, and the system quickly collected the sword chi in the surroundings. As time passed, the sword chi became thinner and thinner. In the end, the sword chi on the mountain peak was completely collected. Although these sword chi are extraordinary, the most powerful one is the immortal sword Heavenly Lake. Liu's gaze turned to the sword lake that was filled with sword chi as a smile appeared on his face. Even Yihei didn't dare to touch this immortal sword Heavenly Lake in the original movie. This shows how powerful it is. The immortal sword Heavenly Lake was Qisong Zi's sword cleansing pool. Qisong Zi spent most of his life practicing his sword Tao and comprehending the Tao here. The immortal sword Heavenly Lake was invaded by Qisong Zi's sword insight day and night. Every drop of lake water contained inextinguishable sword light and supreme sword insight. Once the sword chi exploded, it was enough to destroy the world. This immortal sword Heavenly Lake is extremely powerful. Of course, I can't let go. Liu walked to the side of the lake and pointed at the surface of the lake. An invisible black hole rushed out from Liu's fingertip. Buzz, boundless sword chi surged like waves. Thousands of sword chi hummed, and the chilling intent was terrifying. It was as if the immortal sword Heavenly Lake was unwilling to be collected and was roaring angrily. However, all of this was meaningless. The system directly extracted the lake water that contained boundless sword chi at an extremely fast speed. The sparkling water surface of the immortal sword Heavenly Lake kept decreasing. After about 10 minutes, the huge lake actually dried up. There was a gentle breeze all around, and the clouds were light. There was no longer any sword chi that was threatening. Great! This is a great harvest. Liu glanced at the resource warehouse and smiled when he saw the immortal sword Heavenly Lake that was filled with sword chi. Although the system had scanned all the resources in this world, it would still consume a lot of energy to create them. Take this immortal sword Heavenly Lake as an example. If Liu wanted to create the immortal sword Heavenly Lake, there would probably not be much left of the 1,000 points of energy. Without a sufficient source of energy, how could Liu be willing to squander it like this? Now that he had obtained the immortal sword Heavenly Lake, he would not consume the system's energy if he wanted to use the immortal sword Heavenly Lake's power. With Qisong Z sword intent and this immortal sword Heavenly Lake, Liu did not need to consume the system's energy to be able to use a huge amount of power. It would be of great help to his career of pretending to be an expert and acting as an old grandpa. It would also make him safer. At this time, Zhou, you should have reached the ruins of the great Thunderclap Temple, right? Liu looked up at the sky and smiled. With the immortal sword Heavenly Lake, I don't need to worry about consuming the system's energy. I can also make a trip to the Big Dipper Starfield. Then, let's go hitch a ride. A sword light soared into the sky and went straight into the clouds. Liu used the power of the immortal sword Heavenly Lake and rode the sword light to fly toward Mars. At this moment on Mars, Zhou, Yi, and his party had just walked out of the giant bronze coffin. Where is this? Looking at the desolate land in front of him, what entered his eyes was a vast land covered with reddish-brown gravel. Desolate, dead silent. Looking around, there was no sign of life in the wilderness. Spirit of the Heavenly Book, where is this? Walking out of the giant bronze coffin, Zhou Yi asked the Heavenly Book of the highest Heavenly Book in his heart. Your Majesty, this is the first stop of the ancient path of the stars, Mars. The Spirit of the Heavenly Book replied, Mars was also a holy land back then. Unfortunately, it later declined. Your Majesty, the ruins of the great Thunderclap Temple are not far ahead. Your Majesty should go and investigate. You will definitely gain something. Great Thunderclap Temple? Buddha's Great Thunderclap Temple? It's actually here? Zhou Yi was shocked and looked in the direction indicated by the Spirit of the Heavenly Book. Sure enough, he saw a faint glimmer of light. The Tao ancestor said that when we reach the Great Thunderclap Temple, I have to sacrifice the Bodhi tree. So it seems that the Tao ancestor has already expected this? Zhou, he looked up in the direction of the great thunderclap temple and took a deep breath. I hope the harvest of the great thunderclap temple won't disappoint me. Chapter 10. A sword light flashed through the sky like a meteor. Li Yu's figure landed on the ancient chaos star. This sword escape technique is indeed magical. Li Yu saw the reddish-brown desolate scene in front of him and nodded with a smile. I've reached Mars so soon. It's much faster than the previous multicolored flight. This position, Li Yu raised his eyes and looked around. He couldn't tell the direction at all. All right, I have the system. I'm not afraid of getting lost. System. Indicate the location of the great thunderclap temple. The system instantly lit up something that looked like a compass. The shimmering arrow directly indicated the direction. How convenient. Li Yu chuckled and was about to soar into the sky on the sword light when he suddenly heard the system prompt. Host, Zhou Yi has entered the great thunderclap temple. As that kid, Zhou Yi arrived. Li Yu stopped the sword light flight and opened the system connection. Other than the Bodhi tree, the rest of the great thunderclap temple are all junk. It's still early before the 9 dragons pulling the coffin takes off again. Let's watch the show first. System, take over the book of the highest heavens. After finding a rock to sit on, Li Yu directly took over the book of the highest heavens system through the system connection. Through the book of the highest heavens system, he watched Zhou Yi's actions. Zhou Yi walked out of the ruins of the heavenly palace. This is the great thunderclap temple? Why is Buddha's dojo in such a dilapidated state? 50 meters ahead, a dilapidated ancient temple stood quietly. A bean-sized light faintly seeped out from the temple door. In front of the ancient temple, a huge ancient tree stood tall. The ancient tree was completely withered. Although the branches were as strong as dragons, the entire tree was only dotted with 5 or 6 sparkling green leaves. This is the Bodhi tree? Zhou Yi looked at the withered ancient tree and frowned slightly. The Tao ancestor wants me to sacrifice the Bodhi tree to him. How exactly should I sacrifice it? Zhou Yi, this kid, is quite trustworthy. Li Yu saw this scene and nodded with a smile. The Bodhi tree and the Bodhi seed can enlighten people and improve their comprehension. It's better for me to keep it. With a thought, Li Yu instructed the spirit of the heavenly book to explain to Zhou Yi. The spirit of the heavenly book was something similar to an AI program. Once Li Yu gave the order, the heavenly book spirit immediately responded. Your Majesty need not worry. The spirit of the heavenly book revealed its form and answered after bowing to Zhou Yi. Your Majesty, to sacrifice the Bodhi tree to the Tao ancestor, you only need to stand near the Bodhi tree and recite the Tao ancestor's name in your heart, saying the sacrifice. That's it. The Tao ancestor is indeed resourceful. Zhou Yi sighed in his heart and walked toward the great thunderclap temple. At the same time, Yi Fan and the others also walked out of the ruins and saw the temple. Why is there a temple here? There's also a withered tree. What a huge tree. Seeing the ancient temple and withered tree in front of them, everyone started discussing in surprise. Sigh. Zhou Yi, be careful. This place is too strange. Li Xiaoman hurriedly reminded Zhou Yi when she saw him walking towards the ancient temple. It's fine. Zhou Yi turned his head and smiled at Li Xiaoman, then continued to walk forward. The others also carefully followed him. Arriving in front of the Bodhi ancient tree, Zhou Yi stood still and thought to himself, Tao Father, disciple Zhou Yi has sacrificed the Bodhi ancient tree according to the agreement. Tao Father, please accept it. With a slight explosion, an invisible ripple swept across the Bodhi ancient tree. The huge Bodhi ancient tree instantly collapsed. There were no wood shavings flying in all directions, nor were there any withered branches flying in all directions. There was only ash that filled the sky and sprinkled down. Very good. A faint voice sounded in Zhou Yi's ears. Zhou Yi seemed to see an old man with an ancient appearance nodding at him with a smile. Ha! The Bodhi ancient tree and the Bodhi seed have both been obtained. Li Yu couldn't help but laugh. This kind of thing where he ordered others to do his work and benefited from it was really great. Wasn't this so-called sacrifice just using the Book of the Highest Heavens to connect to the system's resource collection function? It was really convenient to use this trick to act mysterious. What's going on? Joey, what are you doing? My eyes were captivated by the ashes. Quickly blow it for me. When Joey sacrificed the Bodhi ancient tree, the people behind him just happened to arrive nearby. The Bodhi ancient tree turned into ashes, immediately causing these people to be covered in dust. I'm sorry. Joey apologized to everyone with an apologetic face and explained, I don't know what's going on either. As soon as I got here, the tree suddenly turned into ashes. Of course, Joey wouldn't admit that he was the one who did this. In the blink of an eye, he thought of an excuse. Maybe this tree has already turned into ashes, but it hasn't scattered yet. When you came over, your footsteps shook it and it directly shattered. That's very possible. Yi Fan nodded. When many ancient objects were unearthed, they also encountered this problem. Something that was originally fine, once it was touched, it would immediately shatter. When we enter the ancient temple later, be careful. Joey nodded his head, looked at the crowd, and said, even the ancient trees can turn into ashes. Who knows if this ancient temple will collapse as well? Everyone, be careful. As Joey spoke, he carefully moved forward. At this time, in Joey's mind, Liu instructed the spirit of the heavenly book to speak again. The spirit of the heavenly book said, Your Majesty, your future achievements will definitely be extraordinary, but your current strength is slightly insufficient. There are still some damaged Buddhist treasures in the Great Lane Temple. If the Book of the Highest Heavens recovers these Buddhist treasures, you can exchange them for some power. A broken Buddhist treasure? Joey's expression did not change, but his eyes flashed with a trace of light. The Book of the Highest Heavens is all-encompassing, but every item requires energy points to exchange for. If I retrieve these Buddhist treasures, I can exchange them for extraordinary power. Stop thinking of this. Joey hurriedly turned around to look at the crowd behind him. Everyone, there were piles of bones along the way. It's hard to say if this ancient temple is dangerous or not. The expression on Joey's face was somewhat serious. I suggest we choose a few people to investigate first. If there's no danger, then forget it. If there was any danger, the people behind would have time to rescue him. What do you think? Tisk, who knows what you're up to? Lu Yunji sneered and glanced at Joey. Choose a few people to investigate? You want to find someone to take the risk, right? If there's danger, you want others to die? If there are benefits you want to share? Why don't you go investigate yourself? Lu Yunji, what do you mean? Joey deliberately showed anger on his face, but he secretly gave Lu Yunji a thumbs up in his heart. This cooperation was really good. Since I proposed it, of course I have to go. Joey stood up with a righteous face. Is there anyone else who is willing to go with me? Everyone was silent. Forget it. I'll go alone. Joey snorted coldly and walked away, but he was secretly laughing in his heart. Li was also laughing. Joey, this kid is really scheming. This kid is a character. Unfortunately, no matter how powerful you are, you can't escape from this old man's palm. Ha ha. Chapter 11. Is this the Bodhi seed? Liu lay lazily on the rock, holding a walnut-sized Bodhi seed in his hand. Looking at the intertwining patterns on it, it naturally manifested the image of a compassionate Buddha. This is the seed of the divine tree of enlightenment. I wonder how effective it is in increasing comprehension and awakening one's mind. The Bodhi seed in his hand was dull and inconspicuous. However, it was a Buddha made by nature, simple and natural, faintly emitting a Zen aura. In the original book, Emperor Yi was just a mortal. Although he had some knowledge of cultivation, it was only superficial. But with the Bodhi seed in his hand, he could actually understand the Tao scripture. It can be seen that the effects of the Bodhi seed are extraordinary. Liu waved the Bodhi seed in front of his eyes with a smile. I've exchanged for the Infinite Sutra. Although all the knowledge has been stored in my mind, to truly understand and master it, there's still a huge gap. This Bodhi seed just so happens to be able to solve my urgent problem. Liu smiled and stored the Bodhi seed in the system's resource vault. The system's resource vault actually had the same function as a storage space. This made Liu even more surprised. Keeping the Bodhi seed, Liu's gaze turned to the 6 emerald-like Bodhi tree leaves. After collecting the Bodhi tree, the huge Bodhi tree turned into ashes, and all the essence gathered in the 6 emerald-like leaves. The Bodhi tree leaves also have the effect of enlightening one's mind. I'll use one to test the effect first. Liu took out the Bodhi tree leaf from the system and placed it between his eyebrows. His mind began to flip through the infinite sutra in his mind. A clear stream entered his mind from between his eyebrows. Liu's mind was completely cleansed by this clear stream. He only felt that his heart was like the bright moon, and his wisdom was like light. All things return to nothing. All things originate from the beginning. An aura as vast as the river of time flowed in Liu's mind. One by one, the incomparably profound characters were deciphered. True intent entered Liu's mind one after another. A soft sound in Liu's ears was like thunder. Liu was instantly jolted awake. So it's the Bodhi tree leaf that's broken. A puff of ash fell, and the jade-like Bodhi tree leaf turned into ashes. Liu sighed softly. The infinite scripture is indeed broad and profound, mysterious and unfathomable. It was no wonder that Emperor No Beginning could become the pinnacle of this world. This cultivation technique actually involves the power of time. A single Bodhi leaf allowed Liu to comprehend the sea of samsara scroll of the Infinite Sutra. It also allowed Liu to have a better understanding of cultivation. I still have 5 Bodhi leaves and a Bodhi seed. Comprehending the entire Infinite Sutra shouldn't be a problem. Now that my cultivation level is not high enough, there's no need to rush to decipher the last few scrolls. Liu flicked his sleeves and scattered the ashes of the Bodhi leaves. He smiled and got up. Let's see how Zhou is doing first. His mind followed the connection of the system and instantly entered the Book of Taishang. Everything around Zhou was displayed in front of Liu's eyes. In the ruins of the great Thunderclap Temple, Zhou walked into the ancient temple of the Great Lane Temple alone. Spirit of the Heavenly Book, where is the Buddhist treasure you mentioned? Zhou walked into the ancient temple and saw the empty Buddhist hall. Apart from an oil lamp, there was no sign of the existence of the Buddhist treasure. Did I forget to add a search function to the Book of Taishang? Forget it. I'll see if I add it to him when I'm in a good mood. Li had already taken over the Book of Taishang. Zhou Yi's every move could not escape Liu's eyes. Seeing that Zhou Yi could not find the Buddhist treasure, Liu asked the system to transmit the location of the Buddhist treasure to the Spirit of the Heavenly Book. Please allow me to indicate the location of the Buddhist treasure for your majesty. The Spirit of the Heavenly Book bowed and then displayed the location of all the broken Buddhist artifacts one by one in Zhou Yi's mind. It's so convenient. Zhou Yi praised in his heart and looked up to the Tao ancestor even more. Following the instructions of the Spirit of the Heavenly Book, Zhou Yi collected the broken Buddhist artifacts on the ground one by one. The oil lamp, alms bowl, Buddhist beads, Vajra pestle, incense burner, ferrule, copper bell, golden bell, fish drum, and Rui scepter were collected one by one. A smile bloomed on Zhou Yi's face. With each broken Buddhist artifact collected, the Spirit of the Heavenly Book told him how much energy he had gained. Zhou Yi thought that he would be able to exchange for extraordinary power soon and became more and more eager. Liu also smiled when he saw all kinds of broken Buddhist artifacts constantly appearing in the resource warehouse. In addition to the residual Buddhist power in these things, the materials were also extraordinary. The system even gave a hint that they could be repaired. However, Liu rejected it. He was now acting as the Taishang Tao ancestor. Of course, he would not take out the Buddhist artifacts to make a fool of himself. Next, it was time for the crocodile ancestor to show off. It was not bad to extract the power of the Buddhist treasure and give it to Zhou Yi to protect himself. Zhou Yi, you can continue to pick up junk. Even this stone Buddha is a Buddhist treasure? That plaque too? Zhou, he looked at the instructions of the spirit of the heavenly book and was a little dumbfounded. Forget about these broken Buddhist artifacts. Even the Buddha statue and the plaque on the door were to be demolished. However, Zhou, he thought that he was the successor of the Tao ancestor. He immediately thought of something like the battle between Buddhism and Taoism and had no psychological pressure about this. Then I'll take it. Zhou, he waved his hand at the stone Buddha, and the huge Buddha statue instantly disappeared without a trace. After this big Buddha entered the resource warehouse, Liu grinned. This is a good thing. OMMA, an iPad, me, hum, 6 words Great Bright Mantra. Although the system has recorded the information of the Great Bright Mantra, the Great Bright Mantra on the stone Buddha does not need to be cultivated. It can be used directly. Liu's face was a little happy. In the original work, the stone Buddha self-destructed. This was really too wasteful. The complete 6 words Great Bright Mantra had infinite power. Zhou, are you okay? Zhou, what's the situation inside? Just as he collected the stone Buddha, Zhou, he heard someone calling him outside. I'm fine. I didn't find any danger here. All of you come over. There was still the plaque of the Great Lane Temple that had not been collected. Zhou, he could not collect it directly in front of everyone. He could only call the others over for the time being and think of a way when he left. Hearing Zhou Yi's answer, the others also walked in. Seeing the empty Buddhist hall, everyone was stunned. It was completely unexpected. Why is it empty? There should be something here, right? There are obviously traces of dust on the ground. There must be something. Liu Yunji walked to Zhou Yi and said with a sneer, Zhou Yi, no wonder you wanted to come in alone to investigate. So this was your idea? Presumably, you have gained a lot of benefits here, right? Liu Yunji turned around and glanced at the others. He said angrily, everyone has a share of the things here. It's not just Zhou Yi's alone. Zhou Yi has gained benefits, so he must share them with everyone. Don't you think so? Yes, 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 yes. Some envious people also chimed in one after another. Huh, Zhou Yi is being besieged. This is interesting. When Liu saw this scene, he touched his smooth chin and chuckled. Zhou Yi, how will you deal with it? Chapter 12. Huh, it's really funny. Zhou Yi sneered and glanced at Liu Yunji disdainfully. Don't say that I didn't take anything. Even if I took it, it's what I deserve. Why didn't you guys come when I asked someone to investigate with me? Zhou Yi pushed Liu Yunji away, snorted, and walked out of the hall. Not bad, not bad. Be tough when it's time to be tough. Seeing this scene, Liu nodded and was quite satisfied with Zhou Yi's performance. Spirit of the heavenly book, give him a hint that the sandstorm is about to appear. Let him take the opportunity to collect the plaque of the Great Lane Temple. Liu took over the book of the highest heavenly book and directly instructed the spirit of the heavenly book. By the way, don't let him exchange things randomly. When Crocodile God attacks, let him exchange for a one-time skill to save his life first. For Liu's order, the spirit of the heavenly book naturally carried it out without hesitation. Zhou Yi walked out of the hall of the Great Lane Temple. After collecting more than a dozen broken Buddhist artifacts, Zhou Yi felt that he could already exchange for some transcendent being abilities. Spirit of the heavenly book, how many energy points do I have now? What can I exchange for? Zhou Yi asked the spirit of the heavenly book in his heart. Your Majesty, including the stone Buddha, you have collected a total of 14 Buddhist artifacts. You have a total of 84 energy points. The spirit of the heavenly book replied. 84 energy points can be exchanged for some cultivation techniques and elixirs. Zhou Yi nodded, and his heart was a little eager. I will soon have transcendent being powers. Your Majesty, the current environment is not suitable for cultivation. I suggest that Your Majesty keep these energy points. In case of danger, you can also exchange for a one-time skill to defend yourself. Is that so? Zhou Yi was stunned for a moment. He looked up at the desolate land around him and nodded. I was a little too hasty. Your Majesty, the sandstorm is coming. The shield of the great Lane Temple won't last long. Your Majesty should be prepared early. The spirit of the heavenly book reminded. Sandstorm? Zhou Yi was shocked and looked up at the sky. Sure enough, he saw a faint reddish-brown sand rising in the distance. Let me take the plaque of the Great Thunderclap Temple first. Turning his head to look at the people in the Great Thunderclap Temple, a sneer appeared at the corner of Zhou Yi's mouth. All of you only want to get benefits, but are unwilling to take risks. Is there such a good thing? With a wave of his hand, an invisible wave swept across, and the signboard of the Great Thunderclap Temple disappeared. Boom! With a loud bang, the entire Tempest Temple was smashed into smithereens. It actually shattered? When Zhou Yi saw this situation, he was alarmed. Spirit of the Heavenly Book, what's going on? The Great Thunderclap Temple has been in ruins for a long time. The only reason it hasn't collapsed is because of the remaining Buddhist energy. Now that His Majesty has taken away all the Buddhist artifacts, the Tempest Temple will naturally collapse. Is that so? Interesting. When Zhou Yi thought of the people in the temple hall, he couldn't help but laugh secretly. As expected, the Buddha hall turned into ashes and collapsed, causing everyone to cry out in alarm. What's going on? The house has collapsed. Run. Help! The Great Thunderclap Temple was in chaos. Everyone was covered in ashes and rushed out in a sorry state. Zhou Yi, is this your doing? Lu Yunji ran out with his face covered in dust. When he saw Zhou Yi standing leisurely on the side and watching the show, he was furious. He pointed at Zhou Yi and scolded, Zhou Yi, it was fine just now, but it collapsed as soon as you came out. It must be your doing. Shut up. Zhou Yi snorted coldly and glanced at Lu Yunji like he was looking at an idiot. He stretched out his hand and pointed to the sky. Look for yourself. Look over there. Boom, boom. A series of roars came from afar, and the ground began to tremble like thousands of horses galloping and raging waves surging. What's that? Now do you know how the ancient temple collapsed? Zhou Yi glanced at Lu Yunji disdainfully. With such a big movement, the temple hall will definitely collapse. This is a sandstorm, a superstorm on Mars. The foreigner Cade looked at the scene in the distance, and his expression changed drastically. He mixed English and Chinese together and shouted in horror. Boom! In the blink of an eye, a sandstorm swept over. For a moment, the sky darkened and the sun and moon lost their light. The overwhelming reddish-brown sand and dust covered the entire sky, and a great storm that engulfed the entire Mars began. What the hell? Liu looked at the overwhelming sandstorm and shuddered all over. He quickly activated the system's resource collection function. An invisible black hole shrouded Liu's surroundings. The crazily sweeping sandstorm rushed to Liu's side and was absorbed by the system and transformed into energy. The sandstorm has appeared. Next is the attack of Crocodile God. Liu walked forward easily in the sandstorm. Wherever he went, the wind was calm and the waves were calm. It was like Moses parting the sea, majestic and awe-inspiring. It's a pity that no one appreciates this old man's charm. If I want to show off, no one will look. Liu couldn't find a chance to show off and sighed gloomily. Let's watch the show first. Hee, young man, don't be afraid. Your ancestor is fooling you. The ruins of the Great Lane Temple. Seeing the sandstorm approaching, everyone was terrified. Rumble. The sandstorm swept over, and for a moment, sand and dust were everywhere, turning the sky dark. Everyone was at a loss for what to do. What should we do now? We're dead for sure. We're dead for sure. Despair spread in everyone's hearts. Don't panic. We still have a way out. Zhou Yi raised his head to look at the sandstorm that covered the sky and calmly said, We still have a way out. There's still a way out? What do we do? Speak. This is Mars. After the light curtain is broken, where else can we survive? There was a great terror between life and death. Everyone panicked and was at a loss for what to do. Have you forgotten how we got here? Zhou Yi pointed at the place where the 9 dragons pulled the coffin and said to everyone, "That's right, this might be the only way to survive." Fan Xian's eyes lit up and he nodded. Yes, right, that was an immortal's destiny. There must be a way out. At this time, everyone understood and quickly rushed towards the 5-colored altar. The distance was not far. The ruins of the Great Lane Temple were only about 1,000 meters away from the 5-colored altar. However, this distance seemed to be separated by thousands of rivers and mountains. If they didn't reach the 5-colored altar, the light barrier in the sky would shatter, and everyone would die without a doubt. Quick, run. Along the way, there were ruins everywhere, with countless broken tiles and broken walls. The journey wasn't easy, but even the weakest women were running for their lives at this moment. Your Majesty, be careful. Crocodile God is attacking. The sudden reminder from a spirit of the heavenly book shook Zhou Yi's heart. Crocodile God? What is it? It's something like that. The spirit of the heavenly book showed the image of Crocodile God in Zhou Yi's mind. Your Majesty, this thing is extremely ferocious. You must be careful. A woman was running through the ruins when she suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream and fell head first into the ruins. Crocodile God is here? Zhou Yi was shocked and clenched his fists tightly. Chapter 13. With the appearance of Crocodile God, Zhou Yi doesn't have the power to protect himself. When Liu saw the scene of Crocodile God's attack, he paused and quickly gave the spirit of the heavenly book an order. Spirit of the heavenly book, let Zhou Yi exchange for a group buff protection technique. Just find one from those Buddhist artifacts. In addition, if it's an attack, let him exchange for sword energy first. Whether it was a defensive skill or an offensive sword energy, they all came from the objects collected by Liu. In this way, there was no need to consume the system's energy. The landlord doesn't have any extra food. There are only 1,000 points of energy. I still have to keep it to show off. How can I just use it? Liu smiled and shook his head, then continued to move forward. Walking on Mars. If it's photographed by a satellite, it'll be interesting. Liu thought mischievously as he walked. With the system in hand, the environment on Mars could not affect Liu. How much energy would it take to exchange for a little air? He could directly exchange for air into his lungs and even save on inhaling. Well, this was purely boring. I'd better go earlier and hitch a ride. Liu really couldn't stand this dusty environment. A light rushed up, and Liu flew in the direction of the 5-color altar. Near the ruins of the Big Lane Temple, Zhou Yi saw a woman fall to the ground, and his heart suddenly tightened. Spirit of the heavenly book, I want to exchange. A living life passed away in front of his eyes, and the fear of death surged into his heart. Zhou Yi was a little flustered. Your Majesty, according to the current situation, you need to exchange for a defensive skill and an offensive skill. Your Majesty, please choose. The spirit of the heavenly book waved his hand and cast a light screen, which was densely listed with various exchanges. There are too many. I'm dazzled. Just choose a few suitable ones. Seeing the densely packed exchange items, Zhou Yi almost had trypophobia. Your Majesty, it is recommended that you choose the Vajra Blessing spell for the defensive skill and the Great Void Sword energy for the offensive skill. Okay, exchange right away. Zhou Yi's tone was a little impatient. Danger was imminent, and his desire for power was uncontrollable. Exchange successful. The spirit of the heavenly book waved its hand, and a spiritual light rushed into Zhou Yi's body. Zhou Yi only felt a burst of heat all over his body, and a majestic power surged in his body. With a body like Vajra, no evil can invade. A Sanskrit sound rang out, and golden light fell like rain, sprinkling a brilliant golden light on everyone's body. It was as if they were dyed with a layer of golden splendor, dazzling the eyes. It's actually a group buff? Zhou Yi was stunned for a while and quickly asked the spirit of the heavenly book, "This skill is a group blessing? Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Your Majesty, don't you need a group buff? Don't you have a group of subordinates with you? The spirit of the heavenly book looked at Zhou Yi innocently. All right. Zhou Yi was speechless. This was actually Li Yu's doing. Li Yu couldn't bear to see that woman die in front of him through the system connection. If he could save as many as he could, then he would try his best to save as many as possible. After all, it did not take much effort. The golden light shone on everyone's body, and everyone was shocked. This is... my strength seems to have increased. Yes, I don't feel tired anymore. After the golden light shone all over their body, everyone clearly felt that the fatigue in their body was swept away, and their strength had increased a lot. Zhou Yi. Lu Yunji suddenly glared at Zhou Yi with a face full of anger. You released these golden lights. You really hid something. Zhou Yi, how dare you embezzle it? Quickly hand it over. Zhou Yi, it's him? Hearing Lu Yunji's words, everyone looked at Zhou Yi together, and their expressions were a little strange. Dang, the golden light on Lu Yunji's body flashed, making a sound like a bell ringing. Lu Yunji only felt a strong force rushing towards him, causing him to stagger and almost fall down. Zhou Yi, how dare you make a move? Lu Yunji glared at Zhou Yi with red eyes, and his face was full of resentment. Idiot! Zhou Yi cursed at Lu Yunji, and with his fingers like a sword, he waved his hand and slashed out. A cold and sharp sword aura pierced through the air, and with a poof, blood splattered. A monster that was broken in two fell to the ground. The monster was about 10 centimeters long and as thick as a finger. It looked like a snake, but not a snake, like a crocodile, but not a crocodile. Its entire body was covered with black scales, and it was extremely eerie and terrifying. What is this? Is this the monster that attacked us just now? When everyone saw the monster's corpse, they couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. There was probably more than one of these monsters. If there were a lot of them, this is the crocodile god? It's not much. Zhou Yi looked at the crocodile god that was broken in two and curled his lips in disdain. Let's go. With a shout, everyone took to their heels and ran. Even if Lu Yunji wanted to use everyone's power to force Zhou Yi to hand over what he had obtained, he had to give up for the time being. Dang, dang. Along the way, there was a bell ringing on someone's body, and they were knocked back. However, the power of this layer of golden light was extraordinary, and the crocodile god's attack did not really hurt anyone. Zhou Yi rushed up and beheaded the crocodile god with a sword. Soon, everyone ran to the five-colored altar. Phew, we finally escaped this calamity. Everyone stood on the five-colored altar, gasping for breath. A moment later, the light curtain that blocked the storm continued to shrink. Gradually, only a thin layer of light curtain that enveloped the five-colored altar was left. There was an endless sandstorm all around. The five-colored altar is absorbing the power of the light curtain. Does the nine-dragon bronze coffin have to rely on this power to move forward? Zhou Yi looked at the gradually shrinking light curtain and nodded. He asked the spirit of the heavenly book in his heart, Spirit of the heavenly book, where will this bronze coffin reach? Your Majesty, the bronze coffin will reach the Big Dipper starfield. Big Dipper starfield? What's it like there? Zhou Yi was interested in the Big Dipper starfield and quickly asked. The Big Dipper starfield is a world where cultivators gather and heroes from all walks of life gather. When Your Majesty arrives at the Big Dipper starfield, you'll be able to compete with heroes from all walks of life. The world of cultivators? That's great. Zhou Yi clenched his fists, his blood boiling. Zhou Yi. Lu Yunji's roar interrupted the communication between Zhou Yi and the spirit of the heavenly book. What's the matter? Zhou Yi turned his head to look at Lu Yunji and asked indifferently, You're still pretending? Lu Yunji pointed at the golden light on his body and said to Zhou Yi, Do you want to take it all for yourself? Didn't you get this golden light spell from the ancient temple? Everyone has a share. If you want to take it all for yourself, no way. That's right. Everyone has a share in this immortal fate. It's not right for one person to monopolize it. Yes. Hand it over. Hand it over. Some of the envious people also began to clamor. You want me to hand it over? On what basis? Don't forget, if it weren't for me, all of you would have died on the road. You don't know how to be grateful, and you actually want to snatch my things? The expression on Zhou Yi's face turned somewhat ugly. This thing belongs to everyone in the first place. Giving us the golden light spell is what you should do. If the rest of us get the treasures, won't we also be able to protect everyone? Lu Yunji had a righteous look on his face as he loudly reprimanded Zhou Yi. Clang, clang. Another bell rang, and the bodies of the two students beside Li Xiaoman and Yi Fan swayed, their bodies flashing with golden light. Ah, another monster is coming. Chapter 14. Ah, help. Zhou Yi, come and help. With another monster attacking, everyone could no longer force Zhou Yi to hand over the treasure. They hurriedly asked for help from Zhou Yi. Even Lu Yunji, who had been looking for trouble with Zhou Yi, shrank his neck and hid to the side at this moment. All of you, step back. Zhou Yi waved his hand and slashed out a sword energy, killing the crocodile god that had just rushed over and instructed everyone. Dang, dang, dang. Streaks of black light rushed out of the storm outside the light curtain. A large group of crocodile gods swarmed over like a tide. Ah, help, help. Zhou Yi, come quickly. Say me quickly. Zhou Yi, hurry up. The crocodile gods kept rushing into the light curtain and slamming into everyone. Although the golden light had not been broken yet, they were already in danger. Everyone screamed in panic. There's so many? Zhou Yi kept slashing with his sword, but the crocodile gods kept rushing over. Zhou Yi was a little flustered. Your Majesty, you can exchange for a glazed heart lamp spell. Glazed heart lamp? Exchange quickly. Glazed heart lamp, burn all evil. A moon-white flame rushed out from Zhou Yi's hand, and it swept through the entire five-color altar with a whoosh. Roar! The flames swept across like a raging prairie. All the crocodile gods around the five-colored altar were suddenly burned by this flame and turned into a pile of black ashes. So powerful. Seeing this flame instantly burn the tide-like crocodile gods to ashes, Zhou Yi opened his mouth and was quite surprised. Although the others looked at Zhou Yi with some inexplicable eyes, they were more afraid. Only Lu Yunji's eyes were full of resentment. Roar! Suddenly, an earth-shattering roar came from the storm, and a thunderous sandstorm was suppressed by it. It was as if a primeval beast had broken free from its shackles and let out an earth-shattering roar. What is this thing? Are there other monsters on Mars? This momentum, I'm afraid this monster is very terrifying. Everyone's faces were pale, and they had already begun to tremble. Roar! An earth-shattering roar rang out, and even the storm seemed to have been dispersed by this roar. Boom! With a loud bang, the earth shook and the mountains shook. Everyone felt the earth shake violently. 1,000 meters away, a brutal and terrifying aura soared into the sky, shaking the heavens and earth. A pair of red eyes hung high in the sky like two lanterns. Even through the sandstorm, everyone could clearly feel a fear that came from the depths of their souls. They couldn't help but shiver all over. Boom! Like a volcanic eruption, countless rocks flew in all directions. A huge boulder the size of a house smashed heavily into the side of the five-colored altar. The sound was earth-shattering, and everyone was so frightened that they trembled. What kind of monster is this? Zhou Yi's heart was also like a drum. This power scared him quite a bit. Your Majesty, this is the crocodile ancestor, a monster saint. Demon saint? What level is this? Zhou Yi was stunned for a moment. He was very uneasy about the word saint. Those who carried the word saint were all extremely terrifying figures. Things like the great sage, heaven's equal, were too easy to make connections. Saints are all existences that can tear the sky and shatter planets. Ah, Zhou Yi shivered all over. Shatter planets. Do you have to be so ferocious? Can I afford to provoke such a ferocious existence? It's useless even if I have the system. I'm really finished this time. Buzz, the five-colored altar roared, and the five-colored brilliance soared into the sky. Five-colored ancient runes appeared in the sky, and the Tai Chi 8 trigrams faintly appeared. The starry sky ancient path was about to open. It's about to start. That's great. Hurry up. Hurry up. Get out of here, quickly. The radiance of the five-colored altar lit up, giving everyone hope that they would be able to escape. Buzz. 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 The five-colored altar trembled, and the Tai Chi 8 trigrams in the sky had taken shape. Qiankuan, Sun, Dui Jin, Zhun Li, Kansas. The 8 trigrams symbols shone one after another. Around them, the space was distorted, and the light was misty. However, the 8 trigrams symbols kept shining, constantly arranging and combining, but they never lit up at the same time. The light of the symbols slowly dimmed again. The huge Tai Chi 8 trigrams trembled as if it would soon collapse. How could this be? It can't be activated. What's going on? When everyone saw this scene, they were immediately disheartened. If the five-colored altar couldn't be activated, then they were dead for sure. Shah! 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 Thousands of divine crocodiles rushed over again, their black scales undulating like a dark tide. Damn it! Zhou Yi's face turned pale, and he waved his hand to scatter a moon-white flame, blocking the tide of divine crocodiles. Roar! A behemoth soared into the sky, and a huge roar shook the heavens. 2 lantern-like, huge blood-red eyes approached from afar in the darkness, and it was rushing over quickly. Monstrous, ferocious flames shook the world. Just this aura alone made everyone feel cold all over, and they felt that their souls were about to collapse. Everyone staggered and almost fell on the five-colored altar. Such a powerful existence. How do we deal with it? Zhou Yi was depressed. Could it be that my journey ends here? I haven't seen the heroes of the Big Dipper Starfield, and I haven't fought in all directions. Am I going to die here? I'm not reconciled. Your Majesty, don't worry. And you still have a way? Quick, tell me quickly. Zhou Yi's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly urged the spirit of the heavenly book. Your Majesty, have you forgotten who gave you the book of the highest heavenly book? Book of the highest heavenly book, Tao Ancestor. Tao Ancestor. Yes, Tao Ancestor is resourceful, and getting rid of this monster is not a problem. There's hope. There's hope. Zhou Yi was overjoyed, and he hurriedly knelt on the ground and kowtowed respectfully. Tao Ancestor, disciple Zhou Yi sincerely kowtows. Tao Ancestor, please show your holiness and subdue the demon. Clang! In the distance, a sword light soared into the sky, and a shrill sword howl shook the heavens. A figure broke through the air and arrived. With short hair and green clothes, a young man about 16 years old walked over in the storm step by step like Moses parting the sea. The storm raged all over the sky, but that person's side was calm, as if this storm that blotted out the sky did not dare to be presumptuous in front of him. It's him? Li Xiaoman covered her mouth with a face full of surprise. Grand Elder? If he comes, we'll be saved. It's him? Yifan looked at this young man, his expression constantly changing. He had a faint feeling that he had missed something. Tao Ancestor! Zhou Yi cried tears of joy and kowtowed heavily to the ground. At the beginning of primordial chaos, the Tao is the first. Purple Qi comes from the east for 30,000 miles, and Hongguan has been here for 5,000 years. Liu slowly walked into the five-colored altar and nodded to the crowd with a smile on his face. I'm the Grand Elder. Greetings, everyone. Chapter 15. Immortal, help. Great Immortal, please take action and subdue the demon. Great Immortal, help. Great Immortal, help. Seeing the arrival of Liu, everyone was ecstatic and kept begging and shouting. Ancestor is merciful. Help us in our suffering. Zhou Yi knelt on the ground and looked at Liu with excitement. No need to be so polite, get up quickly. Liu waved his sleeves, and a force lifted Zhou up. Turning his head to look at the others, Liu smiled and nodded. Everyone, don't panic. Since I have already come, you will naturally be fine. Roar. The crocodile ancestor obviously did not agree with Liu's statement. An earth-shattering roar sounded, and a huge figure like a mountain, with monstrous ferocity and boundless blood, rushed from mid-air. Ah! Everyone in the five-color altar suddenly screamed in fright, trembling all over. Evil beast! Liu raised his eyebrows, turned around, and pointed at the crocodile ancestor that rushed over, and shouted loudly, "Evil beast! How dare you be presumptuous?" Liu stood with his hands behind his back, stretched out his right hand, and pointed his fingers like a sword. He gently slashed at the mountain-like figure of the crocodile ancestor. Clang! A sword's roar resounded through the sky. The water-like sword light soared straight into the sky. It cut through the storm that filled the sky, split the dust that covered the sky, and tore apart the vast sky. With this sword slash, the storm calmed down, the dust disappeared, and the starry sky once again appeared in front of everyone. Aoo! The crocodile ancestor let out an earth-shattering howl. Its huge figure twisted crazily. The splashing blood flickered with brilliant brilliance and sprinkled down like raindrops. Ancestor is mighty. When Zhou saw that Liu had seriously injured the crocodile ancestor, he was overjoyed and hurriedly congratulated him. Great Immortal is mighty. Great Immortal is invincible. Everyone on the five-color altar also beamed with joy and cheered loudly. It's nothing. What's there to be concerned about? Liu nodded with a relaxed smile on his face. In fact, his heart was in turmoil, and his hands and feet began to tremble. He's only injured? Activating the immortal sword Heavenly Lake's sword chi to the greatest extent only injured him? Although Liu looked calm, his heart was pounding. Isn't Chi Song Z's sword chi capable of destroying all techniques with a single sword? Wasn't he able to kill even the sage? Why can't you even kill a demon saint? Roar! After the crocodile ancestor was injured, it roared out once more. Demonic chi rumbled out, covering the entire sky. The black scales on its body clanged as the crocodile ancestor transformed into its human form. The black scales transformed into a black gold armor that covered his entire body. The demonic aura receded, and a figure landed on the ground. This was a 2-meter-tall, middle-aged man clad in armor. He was tall and majestic, like a god of war. Roar! The godlike middle-aged man landed on the ground and roared at the sky. The savage and ruthless aura was like a stormy sea, shaking the heavens and the earth. Ah! Everyone on the five-colored altar screamed again, frightened out of their wits by the crocodile ancestor's monstrous aura. Tut! Liu shouted loudly. A peaceful and clean aura rippled out like a ripple. The gentle and upright aura cleansed everyone's mind, clearing their minds and sweeping away the fear in their hearts. Thank you, Ancestral Master. Ancestral Master is mighty. Zhou, he was also intimidated by the aura of the crocodile ancestor just now and trembled with fear. After being cleansed by this aura, he immediately sobered up and thanked Liu with an ashamed face. No need to be so polite. Liu nodded at Zhou, but he felt a little helpless in his heart. This method just now was clearly the method of that group of baldies, okay? This old man is playing the role of a Tao ancestor. Using the baldies method was really a bit shameful. But Liu had no choice. Facing the threat of the crocodile ancestor, he no longer dared to consume energy easily. He could only use the spell on the broken Buddhist artifact to deal with it. Ant, you actually dare to hurt me? The tall and burly middle-aged man stared at Liu. His pair of blood-red eyes revealed endless ferocity and violence. As he walked over step by step, the surrounding wind and clouds surged. Demonic aura surged, and a monstrous aura was like a fiend god. Is this monster so strong? Liu's heart secretly tightened a little, but he couldn't admit defeat now. Evil creature. Liu shook his sleeves, pointed at the crocodile ancestor, and shouted, Evil creature, You have been suppressed by Sakyamuni for 1,000 years, and you still don't know how to repent? I gave you a small punishment just now to let you know your mistake and mend your ways. If you are stubborn, I won't be merciful. Umph. Ant-like thing, you just borrowed Chi's song, Z's Sword Chi. How dare you boast shamelessly? A ferocious sneer appeared at the corner of the crocodile ancestor's mouth. He walked up step by step. Ant, I will let my children tear you apart bit by bit. Damn it, he actually saw that I was using Chi's song, Z's Sword Chi. Li Yu's heart skipped a beat. Just now, he had already unleashed the Sword Chi in the immortal sword Heavenly Lake to the maximum. But he could only injure the crocodile ancestor and not kill it. Chi Song Z's Sword Dao was indeed unstoppable, but the Sword Chi in the immortal sword Heavenly Lake was not the Sword Chi that Chi Song Z slashed out to kill the enemy, but the Sword Chi that was automatically emitted when practicing the sword and comprehending the Dao. There was naturally a difference between practicing the sword and killing the enemy. There was sword intent, but no killing intent. The Sword Chi in the immortal sword Heavenly Lake was innately insufficient. It was naturally invincible against enemies below the Sage stage, but it was insufficient against a Sage stage opponent. Using Chi Song Z's Sword Chi to deal with the crocodile ancestor, even if they were evenly matched, they would fight for a long time and then erupt at the critical moment. This style is really not in line with the demeanor of an expert. Li Yu glanced around slightly and secretly made up his mind. If I can't leave an invincible impression in Zhou Yi's heart, with his temperament, it is not impossible for him to become an ingrate one day. More importantly, my own strength is too weak. If I were to be hit by the crocodile ancestor, wouldn't I die without a trace? So, evil creature, since you are so unrepentant, then don't blame I for being ruthless. Li Yu's eyes carried a trace of pity as he sighed and shook his head at the crocodile ancestor. I haven't killed for many years, but today I will make an exception for you. Li Yu waved his hand with a look of pity. A gust of green gas rushed out and turned into a round circle out of thin air. It spun and smashed on the crocodile ancestor's head with a dang sound. The crocodile ancestor's eyes froze, and it fell to the ground without a sound. It's over just like that? On the five-colored altar, everyone was dumbfounded. That ferocious and insufferably arrogant, peerless great demon, an existence like a god fiend, died just like that? Ancestor is mighty. Zhou Yi kowtowed respectfully in fear and trepidation. Although he almost believed 80 to 90% of Li Yu's identity as the Dao ancestor, he still had some doubts in his heart. At this moment, seeing this circle and this signature magical ability, he no longer had any doubts. This was obviously the Diamond Chakram. In addition to the one Chi into 3 pure ones, the Diamond Chakram was the elderly lord's signature. Great Immortal is mighty. Everyone on the five-colored altar also bowed respectfully. No need for formalities. Li Yu laughed loudly in his heart. This pretentious act could be given full marks. Chapter 16. The body of the crocodile ancestor is also a good thing. Li Yu stepped forward, waved his sleeve, and activated the resource collection function, collecting the crocodile ancestor's body into the resource warehouse. Sleeve universe? Zhou Yi opened his mouth wide, his face full of envy. As expected of a Dao ancestor, this kind of great magical power could be used so casually. I must hold on tightly to this thigh. Zhou Yi looked at Li Yu with a fervent gaze. Nothing went wrong at last. Li Yu walked back to the five-colored altar and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. If it weren't for the bronze coffin and the energy support of the small immortal world in the bronze coffin, he would have died this time. Li Yu secretly became more vigilant in his heart. With the system, Li Yu was also a little smug. This incident also gave him a wake-up call. Now was not the time to run amok. He had to be careful and vigilant. The Dao ancestor of this world should have the strength of a celestial venerable. Although the crocodile ancestor had the cultivation of a demon sage, it was also smashed into a dead dog by the human demon in the original work. Of course, it couldn't block a blow from Celestial Venerable. Liu turned his head and glanced at the bronze coffin. While rejoicing, he was also a little nervous. Exchanging the energy of the small immortal world for a blow from a Celestial Venerable should not consume too much energy. As long as the small immortal world was not damaged, there should be no problem. The waters of this world were too deep. It was better to be careful. Above the 5-colored altar, the 8 trigrams runes had completely lit up. A huge Taiji diagram appeared in midair, and the yin and yang fish began to tremble as if the door was about to open. Previously, due to insufficient energy, the 5-colored altar had not been successfully activated. After Liu injured the crocodile ancestor, the blood of the demon sage fell and was absorbed by the 5-colored altar. The 5-colored altar's energy was enough to activate. The starry sky ancient path is about to open. Everyone, how about I hitch a ride? Liu smiled at the crowd and walked towards the bronze coffin. All of you are fated people, embarking on the path of cultivation and transcending the mortal world. The opportunity lies on this path. Cultivation, transcending the mortal world, opportunity. Everyone's eyes lit up, and they quickly followed Liu into the bronze coffin. Buzz, buzz. After everyone entered the bronze coffin, the Taiji diagram in the sky began to open. Clang! The lid of the bronze coffin closed, and the inside of the coffin suddenly darkened. A huge tremor rose up as the 9 black dragons pulled the bronze coffin and slowly rushed into the starry sky ancient path. Great Immortal, where does this path lead to? Great Immortal, what do you mean by opportunity? Great Immortal, can we all cultivate? After entering the coffin, although it was dark in front of them, everyone's enthusiasm did not decrease at all. They all started to ask Liu questions. This road leads to the Big Dipper star region. The Big Dipper constellation was a world of cultivation. Sect, clan, paradise, and holy lands were everywhere. Once you reach the Big Dipper constellation, you'll have the opportunity to enter the sect and cultivate. Liu smiled and answered casually, but he was thinking about other things. In the original work, Li Xiaoman was possessed by the primordial spirit of the crocodile ancestor. The crocodile ancestor is dead now. The primordial spirit possession incident would naturally not happen again. But that god's consciousness, did it also enter the bronze coffin? Liu frowned and exchanged for an illumination spell from the system. With a wave of his hand, a bright light flickered out and illuminated the entire bronze coffin. The moonlight illuminated the bronze coffin. However, Liu did not find anything. Wow, is this a spell? It's so magical. Even the illumination spell can be used. How convenient. When everyone saw the silver light in the coffin, as if it was filled with moonlight, they all gasped in admiration. Haha, it's just a small trick. Liu smiled kindly and answered casually, but he did not relax in his heart. System, scan the coffin to see if there is any god's consciousness in it. Liu ordered the system in his heart as he scanned the coffin from the corner of his eyes. In the original book, there was a god's consciousness with a great success divine body who had followed everyone across the starry sky and arrived at the Big Dipper constellation. It had also caused a lot of trouble for Yihei. This god's consciousness had been cut off by Sakya, so its strength was already extremely weak. Liu had the system in his hands, so he wasn't afraid of him. However, the god's will was originally a body of consciousness, and it could appear and disappear unpredictably. If it couldn't be found, it would still be troublesome. Discoverable body. The system's invisible ripples swept through the coffin, and a blurry shadow appeared in Liu's mind. This shadow suddenly followed behind Yifan. This is the will of a god? Liu looked at the black smoke-like thing and shook his head with a smile. Following Yifan, is it because of the holy body? In my hands, you can still have some value. Don't think about harming people everywhere. Smiling and waving his hand, Liu released an invisible wave from his fingertip, sweeping through the black smoke formed by the gods like a black hole. Ah! A mournful scream shook everyone's souls. In the blink of an eye, the god's will was collected by the system and stored in the resource warehouse. Ah! What's going on? There seemed to be a scream just now. Yes, I heard it too. Great immortal. This was the soul-shaking scream caused everyone to turn pale with fright. It's fine. Liu smiled and comforted everyone. There's no need to worry. It was just a little ghost that sneaked out. I have already taken him in. Kid, why is there a ghost here? Zhou, he was stunned for a moment, then asked Liu, Ancestor, why is there a ghost here? Could it be related to this bronze coffin? No, this bronze coffin is not for the dead. Liu smiled and shook his head. Just now, this little ghost just ran out from under the Great Lane Temple. Great Lane Temple. Hearing Liu's words, everyone immediately cried out in alarm. Everyone was familiar with the name Great Lane Temple. At this time, everyone thought of the ancient temple on Mars and the withered tree. Could that be the Great Lane Temple? That tree is the Bodhi tree? Thinking of this, everyone looked at Zhou Yi with an inexplicable gaze. Buddha's dojo. No wonder Zhou Yi could cast the golden light spell. It turned out that he had taken such a big advantage. Under the Great Lane Temple, Zhou Yi's attention was on another point. He remembered the story of Buddha suppressing the demons and the 18 layers of hell. That ghost just now was probably not the little ghost that the ancestor talked about, right? If the ancestor wasn't present? Thinking of this, Zhou Yi shivered all over and secretly rejoiced in his heart. He looked at Liu with some gratitude and respect. It will probably take another day to reach the Big Dipper starfield. Everyone is hungry, right? Liu smiled and glanced at everyone. With a gentle wave of his sleeve, a pile of food instantly appeared in the bronze coffin. Can get chicken. Everyone looked at the pile of fried chicken, fries, burgers, and cola and suddenly felt that it was ridiculous. The expressions on their faces were a little strange. Well, the Tao ancestor and Can Get Chicken were really a little far apart. They were really out of tune. Even if he took out the immortal peaches and ginseng fruits, it would not be so surprising. I traveled the world and happened to hear that these barbarian foods were also desirable, so I took some. Why? Can't these things be eaten? Liu deliberately made a surprised expression, but in fact, he was secretly laughing mischievously in his heart. Yes, yes. Everyone nodded repeatedly and began to take the food, but they were all thinking in their hearts. I don't know which Can Get Chicken was patronized by the Tao ancestor. From the looks of it, the Tao ancestor didn't seem to want to pay, right? Should I congratulate him for meeting an immortal? Or pity him for losing so many things? Chapter 17. Let's take a look at the rewards first. While everyone was eating, Liu opened the system resource vault and began to check his harvest. Borrowing the power of the small celestial realm in the bronze coffin, he exchanged it for a heavenly venerate attack to kill the crocodile ancestor. After collecting the crocodile ancestor's corpse, there were many good things. First of all, the armor. The dark gold armor formed from the crocodile ancestor's scales was refined into the legendary Saint Robe, which was already of the Saint grade. Any power below the Saint grade could not harm the dark gold armor at all. Good stuff. Seeing the dark gold armor, Liu almost laughed out loud. Previously, Liu had injured the crocodile ancestor with his sword because the crocodile ancestor was still in its true form and did not wear this armor. Otherwise, it might not have been injured. It's a pity that this armor is a little too big. If I want it to be big or small, I have to refine it myself. With my current strength, I'm still far from being able to refine a Saint-grade armor. Good stuff, but he could not use it for the time being. Liu shook his head and looked at the next item. It was a sword. The blade was 3 feet long, and the handle was 8 inches long. The shape was simple, narrow, and sharp. It was a one-sided blade, somewhat similar to a Tang saber. This is also a Saint-grade weapon. Seeing this sword, Liu recalled the original work where the crocodile ancestor was smashed into a dead dog by the human demon. Then, the crocodile ancestor was skinned and cooked in a pot. This sword, could it be the one that was smashed by the human demon's bone staff? Liu smiled and nodded. Although this sword was not as good as the human demon's bone staff, it still depended on who it was compared to. This was a Saint-grade weapon. Who below the Saint grade could block a sword from it. Coupled with the sword chi in the immortal sword heavenly lake, it complemented each other, and its power was extraordinary. In addition, there was also a bronze Buddha statue. This is actually a forbidden weapon? The forbidden weapon that Sakyamuni used to suppress the crocodile ancestor? Seeing the notification given by the system after the analysis, Liu could not help but feel his heart beat wildly. In this world, Sakyamuni was the reincarnation of great Emperor Amitabha. The forbidden weapon he left behind was naturally extraordinary. Although it's an item that can only be used a few times, it's enough. Liu was overjoyed. Even if this thing could only be used a few times, it didn't consume any energy to release a huge amount of power. This was already very good. The last was the crocodile ancestor itself. As a demon sage, the crocodile ancestor's flesh, blood, tendons, and bones were extraordinary. Every single drop of flesh and blood contained boundless vital essence, and they emanated divine radiance and flowed with brilliant colors. Thinking about the crocodile ancestor's mountain-like body, how much energy would it have? Very good. If I want to use the power of a saint, I won't even need to consume any energy. With the immortal sword heavenly lake and the body of the crocodile ancestor, Liu could already use the power of a sacred without worrying about energy consumption. That's great. This is a huge advantage. Although the power of a saint was still trash in the later stages, it was enough to dominate the world for now. Moreover, Liu had only stayed in this world for a year. Yes, 1 year. The time limit of the system's initial mission was 1 year. Liu could only stay in this world for 1 year. The last thing is the God's consciousness of the great success sacred body. Looking at the black smoke stored in the resource warehouse, Liu shook his head. It's useless to keep this thing. Let's just break it down. System, break down the God's consciousness. Extract his cultivation comprehension and combat experience. Following Liu's command, a formless wave swept through the resource warehouse. The God's consciousness that was like black smoke instantly collapsed and turned into a dazzling ball of light. Back up the combat experience and cultivation comprehension. If the host wanted to make a game system in the future, he could increase his strength by adding a skill point. At this time, cultivation comprehension and combat experience were necessary. Moreover, he could use them himself. That's right. There's still the crocodile ancestor. System, extract the cultivation comprehension and combat experience of the crocodile ancestor. Target's primordial spirit has been destroyed. Unable to extract. Primordial spirit destroyed? Even the primordial spirit was destroyed by a hit from the diamond chakram? Liu was speechless. Good heavens. A celestial lord's attack was really ruthless. Liu was not disappointed that he could not extract the crocodile ancestor's cultivation comprehension and combat experience. With the great success sacred body, the God's consciousness and combat experience were enough. The great success sacred body was an existence comparable to the great emperor. Such a character was already the pinnacle existence in this world. With the cultivation comprehension and combat experience of such an existence, the crocodile ancestor was not worth mentioning. Not bad. After checking the harvest, Liu was satisfied, and a smile appeared on his face. Ancestral Master, we've finished eating. He looked at the messy ground and said somewhat embarrassedly. Finished eating? Liu was stunned for a moment. When he saw the chicken bones and various sundries on the ground, he suddenly understood. It's just sundries. It's okay. Liu smiled and nodded. With a gentle wave of his hand, the sundries on the ground suddenly disappeared. Liu naturally did not store these sundries in the resource warehouse. After the system recovered the sundries, it directly decomposed them. It's really convenient to have supernatural powers. When everyone saw this scene, their hearts were burning. They looked at Liu with a bit of hope in their eyes. I have been admiring the immortal Tao for a long time, but I can't get the guidance of a master. How lucky I am to see the great immortal today. Liu Yunji suddenly stepped forward and knelt on the ground with a plop. He kowtowed heavily to Liu. Please take pity on me and accept me as your disciple. Oh, Lu Yunji is acknowledging a master? Yeah? Why didn't I think of that? The great immortal is right in front of us. Isn't this an obvious opportunity? Under Lu Yunji's lead, the others also knelt in front of Liu. Please take pity on me and accept me as your disciple. Damn it. When Zhou Yi saw this situation, he was secretly annoyed. Lu Yunji, this kid, really knows how to climb up the pole. He had already regarded himself as Li Yu's successor. When Zhou Yi saw everyone acknowledging Li Yu as their master, he felt very uncomfortable in his heart. But he knew that he couldn't open his mouth to object to this matter. At this time, no matter what the result was, he could only wait for Li Yu's decision. I hope the ancestral master doesn't accept them. Zhou Yi secretly thought in his heart. Everyone, you don't have to be like this. Li Yu chuckled and waved his hand. A gentle force helped everyone up. Everyone, Li Yu smiled and waved his hand. Although you are all fated, you are not fated with I. You have a mandate of heaven and will definitely embark on the path of cultivation. When you reach the Big Dipper starfield, everything will be clear. Don't worry. Don't worry. Clang! The bronze coffin suddenly shook violently and then began to fall. Look, isn't the Big Dipper starfield here? Li Yu smiled. Chapter 18. Kaboom! The bronze coffin landed with a loud thud. The lid of the coffin shifted, and bright sunlight shone into the bronze coffin. A gust of fresh air with the smell of soil and flowers floated in. All right, everyone, we're here. Li Yu smiled and got up. He walked out of the bronze coffin. We're here? We're in the Big Dipper starfield? What kind of place is this? Haha, this is an alien planet. I wonder what an alien planet looks like. Everyone was discussing excitedly as they followed Li Yu out of the bronze coffin. The sun was shining brightly, and the sky was clear. In front of them was a beautiful view of mountains and rivers. At this moment, they were on top of a mountain peak, looking at the scenery in the distance. The mountains in the distance were white, and there was no end in sight. Nearby were jagged rocks of strange shapes, verdant ancient trees, and even green grass that was like a cushion and flowers of various colors that were bright red and purple. It was extremely beautiful. This was a world full of vitality and vitality. This is the Big Dipper starfield? Wow, what a beautiful view. It looks like the environment is similar to Earth. Is this an Earth-like planet? Looking at the scenery in front of them, everyone was very excited. They were curious about everything in the Big Dipper starfield. Clang! The bronze coffin behind them suddenly shook violently. The 9 dragons dragged the bronze coffin down the cliff. Run! Seeing the 9 dragons dragging the coffin down the cliff, everyone was shocked. They quickly ran for their lives, afraid that they would be touched by the dragons and the bronze coffin. Everyone, don't panic. Li waved his hand gently. A ray of light rushed out and wrapped everyone up. They flew down the mountain. We're flying in the sky and underground? So this is flying in the sky and underground? Mighty immortal, this is an eye-opener for us. Seeing this miraculous scene, everyone was so excited that they cried out again. The ray of light flashed across the sky. After a while, Li Yu crossed a black lake and put everyone down at the edge of the forbidden area of the ancient desolation. Where's this? Why did the great immortal put us here? After landing on the ground, everyone was surprised to see that they were still surrounded by mountains and forests. Originally, they thought that Li Yu would take them directly to a town or immortal mountain. At this moment, they were surprised to see that they were still surrounded by mountains and forests. Look! Li Xiaoman suddenly raised her head and looked into the distance. Her face was filled with horror as she cried out. Immortal Palace. Immortal Palace. Wow, so beautiful. Gorgeous. Is this the heavenly court? Great Immortal, are you taking us to the Immortal Palace? That's great. That's great. When they saw the boundless expanse of vast palaces in the distance, everyone was both surprised and delighted, and they cheered excitedly. Are we going to the immortal? Even the thoughtful Zhou, he couldn't help but have a yearning look on his face, unable to contain his joy. Immortal, immortal. The opportunity is not here. You guys, you can't go for now. Liu smiled as he shook his head, and then he continued. Even though all of you are fated, you're still mortals in the end. How can you step onto the path of immortality without being reborn? Reborn? I wonder if the ancestral master is referring to Zhou. He looked up at Liu and asked eagerly. There's an opportunity for you to be reborn here. But it is also a test. Liu glanced at everyone, pointed to the small hill in front of him, and said with a smile, Go. Go there, and there will naturally be an opportunity for you to be reborn. Yes. Zhou, he looked at the direction Liu pointed and walked to the small hill in front of him without hesitation. Damn it. We can't let Zhou get ahead of us. Seeing that Zhou had walked out, everyone became anxious and quickly chased after him. A moment later, everyone walked up the small hill together. There's nothing special here. Where's the so-called opportunity for rebirth? Walking up the hill, everyone looked around, but they didn't find anything special. They were a little puzzled in their hearts. It's so hot. Li Xiaoman wiped the sweat on her forehead and said to another female classmate beside her with some embarrassment. Yeah, it's really hot. The girl reached out to fan herself and turned to look at Li Xiaoman. Your face. Why is my face? Li Xiaoman was shocked. She quickly reached out to touch her face and turned to ask the girl. When she saw the girl, Li Xiaoman's face was full of horror. Your body. What's going on? At this time, everyone noticed each other's abnormalities. Everyone's skin was blood red, as if blood was about to drip out. Everyone felt hot all over, as if there was a fire burning all over their bodies. What's going on? Everyone began to feel hot all over, as if the blood in their bodies had begun to burn. It hurts. A female classmate grabbed her hair and squatted on the ground in extreme pain. Traces of blood began to seep out of her body. She cried out in pain, struggled, and rolled around on the ground. It hurts. Then, the others began to show the same symptoms. One by one, they were covered in blood, with blood seeping out of their skin. They fell to the ground and rolled around in pain. What the hell happened? I don't want to die. Help. Great Immortal, help. Everyone fell to the ground, screaming in pain. Their flesh and blood seemed to be being peeled off, and their whole bodies were in pain as if they were being cut by knives. Huff, huff. Spirit of the Heavenly Book, what's going on? Zhou panted heavily, enduring the intense pain and torture all over his body, and asked the Spirit of the Heavenly Book, Your Majesty, this is the process of burning life force and stimulating life potential. Although it is somewhat painful and there are some sequelae, this is indeed a rebirth. Damn it, this rebirth is too painful. Zhou roared violently, and the crimson blood in his body surged like a blood-colored flame burning. This kind of inhuman torture was simply unbearable. After a series of painful howls, the instinct of self-protection made everyone faint. System, have you finished analyzing this power? Zhou looked at the people on the hill, whose whole body was surging with blood flames. Their life force turned into flames that burned continuously, and their faces were constantly aging. He frowned slightly. This is an energy application method that uses life force as fuel to fully stimulate the body's potential. No other special energy has been found. Is that so? Liu turned his head thoughtfully to look at the deep valley of the cliff where the 9 dragons pulling the coffin fell, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. This should be the cheat that Ruthless gave to the holy physique. Thinking of the amazing woman in the original work who didn't want to become an immortal, but only wanted to wait for you in the mortal world, Liu felt a burst of emotion in his heart. Do you know? The person you are waiting for has arrived. Chapter 19. Is this power just to stimulate the potential of the saint body? Liu looked at the people who had fainted on the hill, especially on Yifan's body, and chuckled. While all of you have fainted, I'll go pick the herbs first. With a flash of light, Li Yu's figure instantly rushed out. On top of the 9 mountains of the forbidden area of the ancient desolate lands, there were divine springs and divine medicines. This was the immortal medicine that was divided into 9 portions. How could Li Yu let go of such a good thing? As the light faded, Li Yu's figure appeared at the top of the mountain where the 9 dragons pulled the coffin. Where are the divine spring and the divine medicine? Li Yu turned his head and looked around for a while, but he didn't find anything. Forget it. I'm too lazy to look for it myself. System, mark out the location of the divine medicine on the 9 mountains. As soon as Li Yu gave the order, the system immediately displayed the location of the divine medicine. So it's here? Li Yu smiled and walked towards the place where the divine medicine grew. This was an open space surrounded by old vines. In the middle, there was a 1-meter-wide spring. Clear and transparent spring water gurgled. Beside the spring, there was a row of small trees that were about 2 feet tall. The shape of the small tree was strange. Every leaf was like a palm. A gentle breeze blew. From afar, the emerald green palms seemed to be waving. At the top of the small tree hung a fruit that was as red as blood. The egg-sized fruit was sparkling and translucent, like a red gemstone. As he walked closer to the spring, a refreshing fragrance assaulted his senses, causing Li Yu to feel comfortable all over. As expected of the immortal medicine, Li Yu couldn't help but rush over in a few steps. The immortal medicine only needs to be harvested. As for the divine spring, let's take half of it first. You can't be too greedy. After all, this thing has an owner. If you provoke a ruthless person, then you're finished. Li Yu waved his hand, and the system's collection function automatically collected the 13 dark red fruits and half a pool of divine spring water. There's still 8 places. Li Yu's figure flickered, shooting up into the sky and landing on another mountain. There was a 2-meter-wide spring in front of him. The clear spring water was gurgling and embellished with specks of light. It was extremely mystical. Beside the mouth of the spring, 11 short pine-like plants were growing. The short pine was green all over, like a jade tree carved out of jade, but at the top of the tree, there was a golden fruit the size of a longan. That's right. Not bad. Li Yu chuckled and waved his hand to collect the fruit and half of the divine spring. Then he turned around and left. Then Li Yu's figure went around the 9 mountains and collected all the divine herbs and divine springs on each mountain. Only then did he leisurely leave the holy mountain and walk towards the place where everyone had fainted. At this time, the people who had fainted on the hill gradually regained consciousness. A shrill scream awakened Zhou Yi. What's wrong? What happened? Zhou Yi turned over and got up, turning his head to look at the place where the scream rose. The scene in front of him made Zhou Yi dumbfounded. What's going on? At a glance, all around him were old men and women with wrinkled skin and white hair. Each of them was trembling and seemed to be only half a step away from death. What's going on? Zhou Yi was about to ask when he suddenly saw his withered hands and wrinkled skin. He was shocked. Have I also become like this? Spirit of the heavenly book, what's going on? Didn't you say that I was reborn? How did I become like this? Zhou Yi was furious and asked the spirit of the heavenly book angrily. Your Majesty, consuming vitality to stimulate potential will naturally lead to excessive consumption of vitality. This is not surprising. The spirit of the heavenly book replied unhurriedly. This is not surprising? How many more days can I live like this? If my life is gone, what's the use of potential? Zhou Yi was already panicking. Why is this happening? How did I become like this? At this time, everyone gradually woke up and discovered the changes between them and the others. Crying, wailing, all sorts of voices rose and fell. It must be that evil Taoist. Lu Yunji stood up shakily, pointed at Zhou Yi, and said while gnashing his teeth, that evil Taoist must have used an evil technique to absorb our yang qi. Zhou Yi, did you collude with that evil Taoist to frame us? Are you crazy? Zhou Yi glared at Lu Yunji in annoyance. Can't you see that I'm the same as you guys? Absorbing yang qi. Have you read too much about it? Who else could it be but you? If it wasn't for that evil Taoist tricking us up here, how could we have become like this? Zhou Yi, you have to be responsible for this. Lu Yunji stared at Zhou Yi with hatred, wishing that he could tear Zhou Yi to shreds. Don't jump to conclusions. At this time, Yifan walked up and stopped Lu Yunji. Zhou Yi looked at Yifan's appearance and was so shocked that he was speechless for a long time. Yifan was also an old man with a head of white hair, but his face was red and radiant. He was completely like a child with white hair. That's right. I'm also curious. Yifan shook his head helplessly. I also have white hair, but I feel that my body is better than before. There must be something strange going on here. What's strange? Could it be that Yifan is also colluding with that evil Taoist? Lu Yunji turned his head to look at Yifan, his face somewhat distorted. Yifan, your body has improved. He must have colluded with that evil Taoist, sucked our yang qi, and then left a little for you. That must be it. Humph. Yifan snorted, completely ignoring Lu Yunji. Spirit of the Heavenly Book, what's going on with Yifan? When Zhou Yi saw Yifan's appearance, he was somewhat puzzled and hurriedly asked the Spirit of the Heavenly Book. Your Majesty, Yifan is a holy body. His physique is abnormal, so after activating his potential, even though he has consumed his life force, his body is still better. The Spirit of the Heavenly Book waved his hand and released a screen of light. It was like a scroll that unfolded, listing all the information about the holy body. Ancient, matchless. Seeing those few adjectives, Zhou Yi's expression became somewhat strange. Yifan's physique actually had such a great background. Seeing that the holy body was no longer suitable for cultivation, Zhou Yi heaved a sigh of relief. The name of the indestructible golden body was simply too frightening. You've all woken up? Yes, all of your potential has been stimulated. Not bad, not bad. A ray of light descended, and Li Yu's figure appeared on the hill. Evil Taoist, you actually dare to do such a thing? You will die a horrible death. When Lu Yunji saw Li Yu appear, he immediately flew into a rage and pointed at Li Yu as he cursed. Huh? Li Yu turned his head and glanced at Lu Yunji. He frowned, shook his head and sighed. With your temperament, it's really difficult for you to become a great person. If I really am a demon, aren't you courting death by talking to me like this? You have great ambition but little talent, and you don't know when to advance or retreat. Li Yu no longer paid attention to Lu Yunji and turned to look at the others. Everyone, do you want to return to your youth? You can even return to your youth? Great, great. Thank you, great immortal. Thank you, great immortal. Hearing Li Yu's words, everyone was overjoyed. Chapter 20. No need to be so polite. Li Yu smiled and looked at everyone. He nodded and said, if you want to embark on the path of cultivation with a mortal body, you must be reborn. Just now, you burned your life force to stimulate your body's potential and transform your mortal body. Great immortal, our appearance, a girl looked at Li Yu hopefully. Obviously, in her mind, how could being reborn be more important than one's appearance? Don't worry. Li Yu chuckled, flicked his sleeves, and stood with his hands behind his back. Although burning your life force will make you age, it is still a matter of life force. However, life force could be replenished as it was depleted. This is not difficult. Li Yu stretched out a finger, and a spiritual light lit up on his fingertip. Spring wind and rain. Spring comes to withered trees. Li Yu chanted softly and flicked his finger. The spiritual light exploded and turned into a rain of light, sprinkling and merging into everyone's body. This rain of light sprinkled down like rain after a long drought. It was like spring returning to the earth, full of vitality. Comfortable all over. Everyone felt an indescribable comfort rising from all over their body. Some of the women even made embarrassing noises, as if time had reversed. Their white hair turned black, their wrinkles smoothed out, their turbid eyes became clear, and their loose teeth became firm. Everyone's appearance changed from old to middle-aged, from middle-aged to young, from young to teenager. Damn it, I used too much force. Seeing this, Liu quickly retracted the spiritual light in his hand, and his heart skipped a beat. I just extracted a drop of life force from the crocodile ancestors' blood, and they really regained their youth. Although it was a little unexpected, the result was even more perfect. Everyone, are you satisfied? Liu looked as if he had everything under control and nodded to everyone with a smile. I, did they become younger? Became younger? Huh, they really regained their youth? Aya, look at my skin, I really became younger. Hee, that's great. This miraculous change of reversing time and regaining youth surprised and delighted everyone, especially that group of girls who didn't want to be younger, who wouldn't want to be prettier. Great Immortal is merciful. Great Immortal is merciful. Everyone fell to their knees in front of Liu in ecstasy. Rise. Liu waved his hand and released a gentle force to help everyone up, as if this was a trivial matter. Of course, this was a small matter for Liu. Not even a drop of the crocodile ancestors' life force was used up, and everyone was turned back into 16 or 17-year-old teenagers. Yes, everyone had returned to their youthful appearances. Even Liu Yunji had returned to his youthful appearance. It wasn't that Liu was magnanimous, nor was it that Liu repaid evil with good. Liu was playing the role of a Dao ancestor. What kind of status did he have? How could he take revenge on someone just because of a mere quarrel? Of course, he had to turn Liu Yunji back into a teenager as well. At the very least, it had to look normal on the outside. I've never been a kind person. Liu's eyes inadvertently swept over Liu Yunji, and he sneered in his heart. You dare to call me a demon? If I don't teach you a lesson, your thoughts won't be clear. Liu didn't do much, but you dare to say that I absorbed yang qi? I'll make sure you don't have yang qi for the rest of your life. A gentle smile appeared on Liu's face, but he was laughing in his heart. The other parts of Liu Yunji's body had recovered their youth, but a certain part of him was still in a state of old age. If one day, Liu Yunji had some thoughts, but found out this would be very interesting. Seeing that everyone was still excitedly checking the changes in their bodies, Liu said with a smile, the affairs of the world are like floating clouds, gathering and dispersing impermanently. I's fate with everyone has come to an end, so I'll bid farewell now. Great Immortal is leaving? Great Immortal, this is the wilderness, what should we do? You can't leave us behind. Everyone was shocked when they heard Liu's words, and they hurriedly begged. Ancestor, Zhou, he was also shocked. He naturally didn't want Liu to leave. He hadn't been apprenticed yet, and he hadn't been taught immortal techniques. How could he be willing to give up such an important backer? You all have your own opportunities, you just have to wait here. Liu smiled and waved his hand. A ray of light rushed up and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Ancestor, seeing Liu turn to light and leave, Zhou, he was depressed and secretly sighed. In the end, I still don't have enough opportunities. It's a pity that I'm lucky enough to travel with a Dao ancestor, but I can't become his disciple. Time passed slowly, and more than half a day had passed. The so-called opportunity still hadn't appeared, and everyone was a little depressed. Look over there. Zhou, he was annoyed when he suddenly heard someone shouting in surprise, and quickly turned his head to look. On the horizon, a colorful light that was as gorgeous as a rainbow swept across the sky. What shocked Zhou was that there was a figure high above in the colorful light, and it seemed to be walking in the air. Immortal? Immortal? Another immortal? The Great Immortal just said that we have another opportunity. Could this be our opportunity? Yes, it must be so. Seeing this colorful light passing through the sky, everyone's eyes showed endless yearning. Immortal! Immortal! We're here! Immortal! We're here! Everyone cheered, jumped, and kept waving their arms and shouting. The figure in the colorful light seemed to have heard the crowd's shouts. The colorful light turned and rushed toward the crowd. In the blink of an eye, a colorful light broke through the air and landed in front of everyone. A young woman of 18 or 19 years old appeared. A light blue dress fluttered in the wind, and ribbons fluttered. Her jade-like face was elegant and refined, with an aura that transcended the mortal world and was untainted by the mortal world. Wow! Fairy! Fairy! So beautiful! Is this a world of immortals? Did we come to the heavenly palace? Seeing this elegant and refined girl land, everyone was pleasantly surprised. Who are you? Why are you here? The girl glanced at the crowd and saw that everyone's appearance was strange, and they were all wearing clothes that did not fit well. So she asked in surprise. Hearing the girl's words, everyone was stunned and did not know what to say. Ahem! Zhou coughed and stepped forward. Greetings, fairy. It was a complete accident that we appeared here. We were originally touring an ancient mountain in our hometown, but somehow we arrived here in a flash. We don't know what's going on. Is that so? The girl nodded and glanced at the crowd. Looking at your clothes, I'm afraid you're not from the eastern wilderness. You. At this point, the girl's face suddenly showed surprise. Qi and blood are like rainbows, overflowing with spiritual light. You're all fine, Jade. Everyone, are you willing to cultivate? A hint of surprise rose in the girl's eyes, and she smiled at the crowd. We have admired the immortal Tao for a long time. Fairy, please guide us. Hearing the girl's words, everyone was overjoyed. All right. The girl nodded happily. My name is Wei Wei. Welcome to the Void Spirit Grotto Heaven. As the girl spoke, she waved her hand and scattered a colorful light, which swept everyone up and flew into the sky. Chapter 21. She's pretty fast. Through the system connection, Liu saw the girl coming in a colorful light and nodded slightly. The fall of the 9 dragons pulling the coffin must have alarmed the nearby cultivators. It's not surprising that this girl, named Wei Wei, came so quickly. Zhou, you will join a cultivation sect. With the system in hand, he will definitely shine. There's no need to pay too much attention to him. Liu smiled. What I have to think about now is my own cultivation. The escape light flashed and disappeared. Liu's figure appeared on the top of a high mountain. This was the border between the forbidden area of remote antiquity and the Yin Kingdom. It was a desolate mountain with few people. Let's cultivate here. Liu turned his head and glanced at the top of the mountain. He found a cliff and flicked out a wisp of sword qi. The sword qi, which was as thin as silk, whistled through the air and cut the stone walls of the cliff. Swoosh! Swoosh! The sharp sword qi easily cut into the cliff, and stone chips scattered. Liu waved his hand, and the system directly recovered the gravel and broke it down into energy. In a moment, a stone cave with a radius of 20 feet appeared in front of Liu. How convenient. Liu chuckled and walked into the stone cave. Raising his head, Liu glanced at the smooth, flat, and spotless cave and clicked his tongue in admiration. With this, if I were to return to my previous world, I would be able to make a fortune by opening tunnels for people. At this moment, the essence of immortal Master Li's charm was exposed. Now, let's cultivate in peace first. He waved his hand and set up sword qi at the entrance of the cave to ensure safety, just in case. Liu sat down cross-legged in the stone cave and prepared to start cultivating. The cultivation in this world is divided into 5 levels. Sea of Reincarnation, Tao Palace for extremes, Dragon Transformation, and Immortal Foundation. Recalling the content of the Premier Sutra in his mind, Liu thought about his own cultivation. The Sea of Reincarnation can be seen as the Dantian. The Tao Palace is the middle of the chest. The 4 extremities are the 12 principal meridians. The Dragonization is the Ren and Du meridians, and the other 8 extraordinary meridians. And the immortal platform is the Dantian above the purple mansion between the eyebrows. Although it's more profound, it's still the path of refining essence into qi, refining qi into spirit, refining spirit into void, and refining void into the Tao. In other words, thinking of this, Liu's eyes lit up. He quickly asked the system, can I consume the life force in the crocodile ancestor's body to open up the sea of misery? Sure. Just as I expected. Liu was overjoyed and could not help but laugh. The so-called opening up the sea of bitterness is essentially refining essence in a qi and opening up the dantian. A single drop of the crocodile ancestor's blood contains boundless vitality. Activating the dantian and opening the sea of bitterness is naturally not difficult at all. The Bodhi leaf allowed Liu to comprehend the first volume of the Origin Sutra. He now had a clear understanding of his own cultivation. However, Liu was in no hurry to cultivate it. System: extract the cultivation comprehension of the divine will of the major success sage physique and transmit the cultivation comprehension of the reincarnation realm to me. Liu took out a Bodhi leaf and placed it between his eyebrows. Then, he gave the system an order. An inexplicable message flowed into his mind. Liu's mind was in a trance. It was as if he had transformed into another person. Liu personally experienced the entire process from the opening of the sea of misery to the nirvana realm. His body changed bit by bit. His strength increased bit by bit. All the cultivation of the sea of reincarnation was experienced by Liu personally. He experienced it from the beginning to the end. Poof! The Bodhi leaf turned into ashes. Liu opened his eyes and let out a long breath. As expected of an unprecedented and unparalleled divine body. This divine body secret technique has indeed made the foundation as solid as iron. After sitting cross-legged for a while and calming down, Liu smiled. I have already exchanged for the innate divine body, Tao fetus. I have all the characteristics of a divine body. This divine body secret technique is also suitable for me to use. System: extract a drop of the crocodile ancestor's blood. Extract the pure vitality in the blood and gradually transfer it into my body. Liu took a deep breath. He adjusted his heart, breath, and spirit. He calmed his heart and entered meditation. He referred to the divine body comprehension and cultivated the Origin Sutra. The crocodile ancestor was a demon overlord. The vitality in a drop of divine blood was terrifying. Previously, he had used a little vitality to rejuvenate Zhou, Yi, and the others. At this moment, the vitality was pouring into his body. Even though Liu asked the system to slow down, he still felt his body swell up like a balloon that had been blown up. His short hair instantly grew. In the blink of an eye, it had grown to more than 2 feet long. His skin was flushed red. He was sweating profusely. Waves of heat surged up. As he circulated his cultivation technique, a huge suction force rose from his lower abdomen. It kept absorbing the vitality that was pouring into his body. Boom! The sound of a raging tide rushed out. Endless purple-gold light illuminated the entire stone cave. In Liu's lower abdomen, the rumbling sound was incessant. The purple-gold light spread out like a vast ocean. The raging tide was rolling, and huge waves were monstrous. Waves of raging tides rushed out, making bursts of rumbling sounds. Even the stone cave began to shake. Liu's mind was clear. He was unmoved. He continued to circulate his cultivation technique. The sound of the raging tide became louder and louder. It was as if a tsunami and a landslide were coming. The purple-gold light rippled in all directions. A huge vibration spread out. Even the sword energy that blocked the entrance of the stone cave made a slight clang-clang sound. A moment later, a little divine light rose from Liu's lower abdomen. At first, it was just a small light spot. Slowly, the divine light spot became bigger and bigger. It was like a candle, a lamp, a night star, and a bright moon. In the end, this little divine light turned into a glorious sun. It shone for thousands of miles. The divine light was dazzling. When the divine light reached its most brilliant moment, the dazzling radiance slowly began to converge. After an hour, all the radiance completely converged and sank into Liu's lower abdomen. The rumbling sound of the raging tide also subsided. The entire stone cave no longer had any changes. Phew! A mouthful of turbid air was spat out. The air condensed and didn't disperse for a long time. It formed a 3-foot-long air pillar. Liu stood up. He was in high spirits. His eyes were shining. His skin was as translucent as jade. His pores were barely visible. His long black hair draped over his shoulders. Every strand of his hair emitted a faint crystal light. Good, good, good. Feeling the thin power in his body and the vast purple-gold ocean in the sea of bitterness in his lower abdomen, Liu exclaimed in admiration. He was overjoyed. I have the pure life force refined from the alligator ancestors' sacred blood. I have the endless scripture, one of the strongest cultivation techniques in this world. On top of that, I have the comprehension of the cultivation of the great success Saint Physique and the secret technique of the Saint Physique. My foundation is so thick that no one in this world can surpass it. Liu clenched his fists. A surge of high-spirited spirit rushed into his chest. Although my cultivation is still shallow at the moment, I have only opened the initial stage of the sea of bitterness. I am still far from the perfect stage of the sea of reincarnation of the nirvana realm. However, my foundation is already very solid. In the future, I just need to advance step by step. He walked out of the stone cave. His long hair fluttered in the wind. Even my hair has grown so long. Turning his head to look at the long hair draped over his shoulders, Liu smiled and shook his head. He exchanged a rubber band from the system and casually tied his hair into a loose ponytail. I wonder how Zhou Yi is doing now. Liu suddenly thought of Zhou Yi. He quickly connected the system to the Book of Taishang to check the situation of Zhou Yi. This is outrageous. Seeing the situation of Zhou Yi, Liu's heart was filled with anger. The rock under his feet cracked. Chapter 22. At this moment, Zhou Yi was in danger. After being brought out of the mountain forest by the girl, they flew all the way. After more than an hour, they came to a small town outside the mountain. Several old men came forward to welcome them and led them into a large courtyard in the town. Wei Wei, did you encounter any danger along the way? There was a sudden change in the forbidden land of remote antiquity, and the nearby cultivators were alarmed. Wei Wei, did you find anything? As soon as they entered the hall, several old men surrounded them and began to ask questions. I didn't find anything special. Wei Wei was about to answer, but before she could finish, she was interrupted by a cry of surprise. These people. Look, these people. An old man stared at Zhou Yi and the others with a face full of horror. His eyes were wide open, making people worry that his eyeballs would fall out. Aren't they just some mortals? Although their dressing is a little strange. An old man next to him answered indifferently and glanced at Zhou Yi and the others. He was halfway through his sentence when he exclaimed again. These people, several old men were attracted over. After looking at Zhou Yi and the others, they seemed to have seen some peerless treasure and could no longer take their eyes off them. Qi and blood are like rainbows, and spiritual light is overflowing. More importantly, the sea of bitterness has been activated. These are all good talents. Good. Wei Wei, you're about to leave Lingshu and go to the Holy Land to cultivate. Before you leave, you found us so many good seedlings. Wei Wei, you have made a great contribution. Several old men were very happy. Although they were praising Wei Wei, their eyes were still looking at Zhou Yi and the others, and their eyes were full of appreciation. Ahem. An old man walked forward, glanced at the crowd, and asked gently, Young people, where are you from? Hello, sir. Zhou. He stepped forward and answered the old man's question. Our hometown is very far away from here. We were visiting an ancient mountain, but for some reason, we suddenly appeared here. This situation, the old man stroked his beard and nodded. I'm afraid you accidentally stepped into some array and crossed the void to come here. At this point, a trace of sympathy appeared on the old man's face. He sighed and shook his head. Everyone, look at your attire, especially your short hair. It's somewhat similar to the customs of the Western Desert. Are you guys from the Western Desert? This is the Eastern Barren Territory, millions of miles away from the Western Desert. I'm afraid you won't be able to go back in this lifetime. It's difficult to go back. Why is that? He glanced at the old man and asked in surprise, why can't we go back? The Eastern Barren Territory and the Western Desert are more than billions of miles apart. Even for me, it would take me a few decades to reach there. As for you, mortals can never reach that level in their entire lives. Unless, when the old man said this, he suddenly stopped and looked at everyone meaningfully. Unless you can cultivate. Once you succeed in your cultivation, this distance won't be a problem. Cultivation. Can we all cultivate? Great. That's great. Immortal Master, please take pity on us and accept us as your disciples. Everyone understood what the old man meant. How could they hold themselves back? Flying in the sky and burrowing into the earth. Immortality. Who wouldn't want such a good thing? Everyone immediately opened their mouths to ask. Ha! Good, good. The old man nodded with a gratified expression. Since you guys are sincere, I will naturally open the door for you. Thank you, Immortal Master. Thank you, Immortal Master. Everyone was overjoyed and quickly thanked the old man. Ha ha! When several old men saw this situation, they laughed happily. Immortal Master, disciple has something to report to Immortal Master. At this time, Lu Yunji suddenly walked out and bowed to the leading old man. Lu Yunji? What does he want to do? Zhou Yi's eyes flickered, and he felt a little uneasy. Could it be that he... Immortal Master, before we arrived here, we had been to an ancient temple. In that ancient temple... Speaking of this, Lu Yunji turned his head to look at Zhou Yi with a cold smile on his face. Damn it! Hearing this, Zhou Yi's expression changed drastically. He already understood Lu Yunji's intentions. Damn it, Lu Yunji, this bastard. Zhou Yi was angry and anxious. He gritted his teeth and wished he could tear Lu Yunji apart. Lu Yunji's thoughts were obvious. Don't even think about getting what I can't get. Hee. Lu Yunji's move is really ruthless. When everyone saw this scene, all kinds of thoughts turned in their minds. However, except for a few people, most of them were gloating over Zhou Yi's misfortune. Who told you to hog the benefits alone? Who told you to be in the limelight? Now you're in trouble, right? Now you're in trouble, right? In front of Immortal Master, you have to obediently hand over any benefits. Lu Yunji, Li Xiaoman, was one of the few who didn't gloat. Seeing that Lu Yunji was going to harm Zhou Yi, she hurriedly wanted to stop Lu Yunji, but it was too late. Immortal Master, we found a treasure in that ancient temple. Lu Yunji stared at Zhou Yi, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. With a smile at the corner of his mouth, he pointed at Zhou Yi. That treasure is in his hands. The reason why we can appear here is probably related to that treasure. Not only did Lu Yunji mention the treasure, but he also exaggerated the function of the treasure even more. In this way, several old men who were not interested in the treasures in the mouths of a few mortals were attracted over. A treasure that can cross the void. There is actually such a treasure? What kind of almighty person is this? How can he refine such a treasure? Once such a treasure is offered to the Holy Land, we will definitely be able to exchange for countless elixirs and miraculous medicines. Who knows? We might even be able to advance to the next level. Thinking of this, the eyes of several old men had already begun to shine. Hee. Young man, you are one of us now that you have become my disciple. As long as you offer the treasure, we will definitely not treat you unfairly. It is not impossible for you to enter the Holy Land, to cultivate like Wei Wei in the future. The leading old man looked at Zhou Yi with a smile. His expression was still gentle, but there was some inexplicable meaning in his eyes. That's right. Our Spirit Void Cave is one of the 6 cave heavens of the Yin Kingdom and belongs to a famous holy land in the Eastern Wilderness. You have just entered the sect and made a great contribution. Your future must be limitless. Another old man nodded at Zhou Yi with a smile, but there was a flash of cold light in his eyes. Young man, this kind of treasure that can cross the void is of no use to you. It is even of no use to us. But in the hands of a holy land, it is very useful. Yes, young man, if this thing is in your hands, It will even bring you trouble. So, hand it over to the sect. What do you think? Several old men stared at Zhou Yi with burning eyes. Damn it, how can I take out any treasure? Zhou Yi's forehead was already sweating. The things of the Big Lane Temple had been exchanged. Zhou Yi didn't even have anything to deal with it. He couldn't hand over the book of the highest heaven. Well, why? You don't want to? Seeing that Zhou Yi didn't answer, the leading old man's face turned cold, and his eyes became extremely sharp. Young man, you have to think clearly. Another old man's hand had already reached for the hilt of the sword at his waist, and his face had become serious. Damn it, what should I do? Zhou Yi was already panicking. Patriarch, where the hell have you gone? This time, I'm dead for sure. P.S. The author has set up a group. Interested friends can come in to chat and brag. 419-574-189. Chapter 23. Ha ha, what good luck. At this moment, a burst of laughter suddenly came from outside the hall. Originally, I just heard that your spirit void, grotto heaven, found some good seedlings for cultivation and planned to share a few. I didn't expect there to be treasures. If there are treasures, of course those who see it will have a share. Streams of light flew past, and more than a dozen streaks of light descended one after another. These people walked into the hall laughing, not caring about the ashen faces of the people from spirit void grotto heaven. Indeed, they are full of spirit and good seedlings. An old man with a cauldron pattern on his clothes glanced at Zhou Yi and the others, and his eyes lit up. Not bad, not bad. The other people who came and looked at Zhou Yi and the others and also nodded in praise. Okay, now the 6 major sect of Yin are all here. The old man wearing a cauldron pattern robe looked around and said to everyone in the hall, don't even think about monopolizing these talents. As for the treasures, of course everyone will have a share. That's right. Spirit Void Grotto Heaven wants to monopolize them, but you have to ask our Golden Glow sect if we agree. Our Purple Sun Grotto Heaven also thinks the same. The others also chimed in. Damn it. The faces of the people from Spirit Void Grotto Heaven were very ugly. But facing the joint pressure of the other 5 sect, the people from Spirit Void Grotto Heaven also knew that it was impossible to monopolize them. So, naturally, they had to fight for the greatest benefits. It's not impossible for you to have share of the loot. But the old man leading the Spirit Void Grotto Heaven said loudly, after all, these people were brought back by us. We have to choose first. On what basis? Didn't your Spirit Void Grotto Heaven rely on the sacred ground? Is it that great? Let's just have a fight. Hearing the words of the old man from Spirit Void Grotto Heaven, the others immediately disagreed. Wait. The old man wearing a cauldron pattern robe said aloud, don't be anxious. Put the allocation of people aside first. Take out the treasures first. Yes. We were almost fooled by them. That's right. Take out the treasures first. After the cauldron pattern old man's reminder, everyone's attention immediately shifted to the treasures. Immortal Masters, the treasure you are looking for is in his hands. Lu Yunji wanted Zhou Yi to be unlucky. When he saw this situation, he hurriedly pointed out Zhou Yi. According to Lu Yunji's thoughts, if Zhou Yi took the initiative to hand over the treasure to the sect, he might be focused on training by the sect. Of course, this was not what he wanted to see, now that the 6 major sect were fighting for it. No matter who Zhou Yi gave the treasure to, he would offend the other 5 sects and would definitely not have a good end. Lu Yunji had achieved his goal. The treasure is in your hands. The people from the other 5 sect looked at Zhou Yi together. Their gazes were fixed on Zhou Yi. Damn it. It's my fault again. Zhou Yi's face was a little pale. Although he had the book of the highest heavens and had been reborn, he was still immortal in essence. Compared to these cultivators who could fly in the sky and burrow into the ground, they were too weak to fight back at all. The energy points he obtained from harvesting the broken Buddhist items on Mars were all used up when he was fighting Crocodile God's attack. At this moment, Zhou Yi didn't even have the chance to exchange for a one-time skill to escape. What should I do? Zhou Yi's heart was beating wildly, and he was somewhat at a loss. Boy, what treasure is it? Take it out quickly. The cauldron-pattern old man shouted angrily at Zhou Yi. His hair and beard were brimming with murderous intent. Could it be that you still want to hide it? Even if you would rather die than submit. It's not like we don't have the means to search your soul. An old woman with a sinister expression stretched out her skinny finger and pointed at Zhou Yi with a sneer. Don't talk nonsense with him. Just beat him to death. Once we capture his soul, no matter where he hides the treasure, we can find it. An old man with a bronze face pulled out a long saber densely covered with sawtooth with a clang and pointed at Zhou Yi. The long saber was filled with thick black smoke. In the black smoke, painful wailing faces continued to appear. Waves of mournful screams were like the wailing of ghosts and howling of wolves. It was extremely eerie and terrifying. Li Xiaoman and the others had never seen such a terrifying scene. They immediately screamed in fright and kept retreating with pale faces. Soul search? Are these all souls? Seeing the faces that appeared on the long saber, Zhou Yi trembled all over. No matter how deep his scheming was and how firm his mind was, he was still trembling in fear in the face of such a terrifying method that was beyond imagination. Boy, are you going to hand it over or not? The long saber filled with black smoke was slowly raised. The old man's eyes revealed endless murderous intent, and his ferocious and ruthless aura shook the mind. I'll count to 3. After 3 counts, you still won't hand over the treasure. This old man will take your life and extract your soul. He raised the long saber in his hand, and miserable screaming faces kept flashing. The old man pointed at the faces in the black smoke and said with a sneer, "At that time, your soul will be like them, suffering day and night, living a life worse than death." Boy, have you thought it through? 3, 2, what should I do? What should I do? Zhou, he was sweating all over, and his face was pale. Your Majesty, have you forgotten Tao, ancestor again? In his mind, the spirit of the heavenly book appeared and reminded Zhou Yi. Tao, ancestor? Hasn't he already left? Damn it, how could I forget? Tao, ancestor, is so powerful that he can travel freely between heaven and earth. No matter how far away he is, won't he arrive in an instant? Haha, I'm saved. Zhou, he found a life-saving straw and hurriedly knelt on the ground, praying in his heart. Ancestor, disciple Zhou, he kowtows sincerely. Disciple is in a desperate situation. Please save me, ancestor. Kneeling? The bronze-faced old man was about to count to 1, but he suddenly saw Zhou kneeling on the ground and kowtowing nonstop, so he stopped immediately. Boy, since you've admitted defeat, this old man is not a cruel and merciless person. Hand over the treasure, and it's not difficult to spare your life. The bronze-faced old man looked down at Zhou Yi and said with a sneer, "Spare my life? We still don't know who will be sparing whose life later." Zhou Yi sneered in his heart. He knelt on the ground, straightened his upper body, raised his hands above his head, and prostrated himself on the ground, shouting, "Ancestor, save me." However, at this moment, Li was also unable to speak of his suffering. When he saw this scene, he was furious, but he was too far away. It would take more than an hour to fly to Zhou Yi's side. By the time Li rushed over, Zhou Yi didn't even have a few bones left. Damn it, it wasn't easy to find a host. After spending so much effort, it hasn't yielded any benefits. I haven't even recovered my capital, and I'm going to be slaughtered? This is outrageous. Li Yu's eyes were cold, and anger surged. You bastards, you dare to touch Ai's people. Chapter 24. System, take over the book of the highest heavens. Liu's face was cold. At this moment, it was too late for his real body to rush over, so he could only think of another way. In fact, it was not that there was no way for his real body to rush over. However, whether it was the great success Holy Physique's magical ability to cross thousands of rivers and mountains in one step, or other people's meteoric rise and void crossing skills. The consumption was too great. With the thousands of points of energy stored in Li Yu's system alone, it would be consumed in one go. It was really not cost-effective. System, create a virtual projection. With the Book of the Highest Heavens as the coordinates, open the energy connection. Li Yu instantly thought of a countermeasure and gave the system an order. An invisible wave rushed up, and the system completed all the preparations. In the town's hall, Zhou Yi knelt on the ground, kowtowed sincerely, and shouted, "Ancestor, save me!" The cultivators in the hall were stunned for a moment, and then they laughed out loud. "Ancestor? It's useless even if you call him Ancestor." The mournful cry on the long saber with black smoke was soul-stirring. The bronze-faced old man had a ferocious expression. "If you don't hand over the treasure, only death awaits you." "Ha! I'm dying of laughter. Even if you have an ancestor, can he hear you shouting like this? And he can rush over after hearing it? Is your ancestor a great emperor? Is he so capable?" An old man next to him looked at Zhou Yi with a face full of mockery. He only felt that Zhou Yi was crazy and talking nonsense. "Ha ha! Call him over. Call your ancestor over. I want to see how capable he is. If he dares to come, I'll beat him into a dead dog." Ha ha ha! All the cultivators in the room laughed out loud. When refining pills indoors, the medicine in the furnace seizes the khanate. Become a guest of the Bayuing Palace. Forget the tens of thousands of years in the human world. An ethereal long song echoed in the air. In the purple clouds that filled the sky, a young man in green stood with his hands behind his back. Green qi circulated around his body, and his Taoist rhythm was natural. "I am a Grand Supreme." The young man in green floated in the air. Among the faint multicolored light, there was a myriad of phenomena and unfathomable. His aura was illusory, but it was awe-inspiring. It was as vast as the starry sky, causing people to tremble in fear. "Welcome, Ancestral Master." Zhou Yi was so excited that tears flowed down his face. He shouted with a sobbing tone and kowtowed heavily. This. Seeing this scene, the group of cultivators immediately sucked in a breath of cold air and retreated in fear. There really is an ancestor? The bronze-faced old man stealthily hid the long saber in his hand, and his gaze became somewhat erratic. How is this possible? How could there be such a person? The sinister old woman trembled all over, almost unable to stand still. Damn it! This time, he might be in big trouble. The cultivators of the Void Spirit Grotto Heaven looked at each other, their hearts pounding. Damn it! Why is this demon here again? What is his relationship with Zhou Yi? Lu Yunji lowered his head and secretly glanced at Li Yu from the corner of his eyes. He clenched his fists with a face full of resentment. "You demon! Why do you only value the Book of Changes? Why don't you like me? Go to hell. Die. I am a Grand Elder." Li Yu nodded at Zhou Yi, then looked around the cultivators and stopped at the old man who was clamoring to beat him into a dead dog. "I'm already here." The old man's face stiffened, and his whole body trembled a little. Seeing this, the other cultivators hurriedly took a few steps back without a trace, opening up some distance. "This disciple of mine has not officially cultivated, and he is just a mortal. You all shouldn't bully him like this." Li Yu pointed to Zhou Yi and said to the cultivators, "With Ai's identity, if I attack you, it will seem that I am bullying the weak. But this matter can't be let go like this." Speaking of this, Li Yu turned his head to look at Zhou Yi, wave his hand, and sprinkle the force, lifting up Zhou Yi, who was still kneeling on the ground. "Zhou Yi, are you willing to fight for me?" Zhou Yi was taken aback. "Can I fight for the ancestor with my little ability?" As soon as doubts arose, Zhou Yi immediately reacted. "With the ancestor present, what is there to be afraid of? The ancestor's power is great, so he naturally has a way for me to win. Even if there is a dragon in front of me, I will slaughter it for you to see. If the master has something to do, the disciple will serve him. This kind of thing naturally doesn't need the ancestor's help." Zhou He held his head high and puffed out his chest with high fighting spirit. The disciple is willing to go. Good. Liu nodded in appreciation, thinking this kid is still a bit clever. It's not in vain that I spent so much effort on him. Go. Liu waved his hand, and a faint purple light fell between Zhou Yi's eyebrows. The light flashed and disappeared without a trace. Zhou Yi's whole body shook, and the voice of the spirit of the heavenly book sounded in his mind at the same time. Your Majesty, thanks to the ancestors' grace, you have obtained the great void sword chi of the Nirvana realm and the true core energy of the Nirvana realm. Do you wish to bless? Bless. The majestic power flowed through his whole body, and Zhou Yi secretly praised in his heart. The ancestor is indeed omnipotent. Come on. With a loud shout, Zhou Yi strode toward the cultivators with his head held high and waved his hand heroically. All of you come together. Bastard, how dare you be so arrogant? A mere mortal dares to make a move against us. No matter how powerful your ancestor's magical power is, it's impossible for him to turn you from a mortal to a cultivator in an instant. It's just that this ancestor is a bit terrifying. We can only try not to hurt him. The cultivator's thoughts turned, and they had already made up their minds. Since you're not going to make a move, they'll make a move first. Zhou, he stretched out his right hand, and with his fingers like a sword, he swept out with a sword. Clang! A shrill sword howl soared into the sky, and the water-like sword light turned into pure and transparent ripples that rippled out. Damn it! It's actually so powerful. Seeing this sword light, the cultivators' faces changed drastically, and they hurriedly reacted. Rays of brilliance rose, and everyone controlled their weapons to resist the sword chi that Zhou Yi slashed over. Clang, the water-like sword light slashed onto the weapons of the cultivators, emitting an excited, trembling sound. The sword intent that could break all laws and cut through everything made this sword light extremely sharp and unstoppable. Puff, 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 puff. The sound of something being cut could be heard continuously. No one could block the sword slash. The cultivators screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. They were directly sent flying by this sword. It's actually so powerful. The cultivators coughed up blood, turned over, and got up, looking at Zhou Yi with a face full of horror. Then, they looked at Liu, who was floating in the purple clouds, as if they had seen a ghost. We admit defeat. A mortal instantly turned into a powerful cultivator. This method was really shocking. The cultivators no longer had the slightest desire to win. They could only face reality and admit defeat honestly. Since you've admitted defeat, I can forget about the matter of you bullying me. Zhou Yi nodded and retracted his sword chi. The cultivators heaved a sigh of relief. Just as they were about to speak, they were interrupted by Zhou Yi. You bullied me, so I can let it go. But Zhou Yi stretched out his finger and pointed at the old man who once clamored to beat Liu into a dead dog. But you insulted the founder, so I can't just let it go. The founder's identity is noble, so he won't lower himself to your level. As a disciple, I can't not stand up for him. Clang! A sword chi rushed out, and the water-like sword light slashed down on the old man's head. Hee! Zhou Yi, this kid is deeply in my heart. Liu's heart was relieved, and he nodded secretly. Chapter 25. Spare me. Seeing the sword light slashing over, the old man was scared out his wits and quickly begged for mercy. However, it was already too late. The sharp sword chi penetrated his brain. The old man's expression stagnated, and a trace of blood oozed out from between his eyebrows. He swayed and fell to the ground. Did he really kill him? So ruthless? Seeing the old man die in front of them, the hearts of the cultivators trembled. They secretly glanced at Liu and found that Liu didn't seem to have any intention of continuing to pursue the matter. Only then did they breathe a sigh of relief. Grand Supreme? This name is very unfamiliar. Who the hell is this person? He can turn a mortal into a powerful cultivator with a wave of his hand. This method is really terrifying. The cultivators were extremely afraid of Li Yu. The disciples could show their divinity by shouting, "Patriarch, save me." With a wave of his hand, he could create a tyrannical cultivator and crush everyone. This kind of magical power was simply unheard of, mysterious and unfathomable. Unfathomable. This kind of person really couldn't be provoked. Zhou Yi. Seeing that Zhou Yi really killed someone, Li Xiaoman and the other students were also frightened. Living in a society ruled by law, the impact of murder on these people was really too great. All the students looked at Zhou Yi with a bit of horror in their eyes. Lu Yunji, we have to settle our accounts properly. Zhou Yi turned around and stared at Lu Yunji fiercely with cold eyes. The water-like sword light lingered on his fingertips, and the chill was as cold as winter. Lu Yunji's face turned pale, and he retreated in fear. Zhou Yi. Zhou Yi, we are classmates. Do you really want to kill me? Classmate. A sneer appeared on Zhou Yi's face, and his finger with sword chi lingering on it had already been raised. When you framed me just now, did you think about being classmates? You want my life? Why should I talk to you about being classmates? Go to hell. The sword light flashed away, and Lu Yunji fell to the ground. The student screamed and staggered back a few steps. They looked at Zhou Yi in horror, as if they couldn't believe it. Even he wants to take my life. Do you think I'll just let myself be slaughtered? Zhou Yi snorted coldly and turned a blind eye to the expressions of the students. He walked up to Li Yu, bowed and said, "Ancestral Master, disciple is fortunate to have accomplished the mission." "Very good." Li Yu smiled and nodded. He waved his hand gently, and a little brilliance came out of Zhou Yi's eyebrows and fell into Li Yu's hand. Zhou Yi's body trembled slightly, and the spirit of the heavenly book's report sounded in his ears. "Your Majesty, the Tao Ancestor has withdrawn his dharmic powers. You have lost the great void, sword chi, and true essence dharma power. I'm really a little reluctant." His real essence dharma power and great void, sword chi disappeared. His whole body seemed to have been hollowed out, appearing empty. He felt the power of transcendence, possessed the power of transcendence, and then suddenly lost it. Zhou Yi couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. "Your Majesty, the enchantment is an external power after all, not your own cultivation. Keeping it would only do more harm than good. The Tao Ancestor is doing this for your own good." "Of course, I understand." Zhou Yi took a deep breath. There was no wave in his heart, and he returned to his normal state of mind. Not bad. Not bad. Seeing that Zhou Yi had adjusted his mentality in an instant, Li Yu really appreciated Zhou Yi a little. "Your Excellency," at this time, an old man who was the leader of the Spirit Void Cave stepped forward and bowed to Li Yu. "Your Excellency, we were greedy and offended your disciple. We are really sorry. Your Excellency is so magnanimous and forgives us. We are deeply grateful. Now that the matter is over, can you allow us to take our leave?" You don't have to be like this." Li Yu smiled and nodded to the old man. He pointed to Li Xiaoman and the others. "These people came here for some reason, but it's not good to ignore them. These people have good qualifications. You can take them in and give them a future. What do you think?" Good, good, good. Great. That's great." The cultivators originally thought that these cultivation seedlings had nothing to do with them. At this moment, when they heard Li Yu's words, they only felt surprised and couldn't help but be overjoyed. "Supreme Ancestral Master, I wonder if we can be your disciples?" Li Xiaoman looked at Li Yu with a hopeful face. Yes, yes, yes. Ancestral Master, please accept us as your disciples." Thinking of Li Yu's magical power just now and how Zhou Yi, a mortal, killed everyone in an instant, how could everyone not understand that Li Yu was a true god? Of course, they wanted to be Li Yu's disciples. "I really don't have a master-disciple relationship with you. This matter can't be forced." Li Yu smiled and shook his head, then turned to look at Zhou Yi. "I'm just an incarnation here. My real body is still swimming in the sea of stars, and it will take a while to return. You can wait here and wait for my real body to return. I will explain to you." Without waiting for Zhou Yi to answer, Liu glanced around the room and nodded with a smile. I will take my leave. As soon as his voice fell, the purple clouds all over the sky flashed away, and Li Yu's figure disappeared. An incarnation here, and his real body is swimming in the sea of stars. What kind of powerful figure is this? Hearing Li Yu's words, all the cultivators were stunned. This kind of magical power was simply unimaginable. That young Master Zhou, the old man with a bronze face, looked at Zhou Yi with an embarrassed face, stretched out his hand and slapped his face a few times. I have offended you just now. Please forgive me, young Master Zhou. I'm sorry. The malicious old woman smiled apologetically and looked at Zhou Yi eagerly. That young Master Zhou, we didn't know that your origin was so extraordinary. Please forgive us for offending you. The old man of the spirit void, cave heaven, also smiled apologetically and kept apologizing to Zhou Yi. They couldn't be blamed for apologizing to him. F***ck, just now, an incarnation had scared him half to death. Now that his real body was coming back, how could he let him live? Just now, I already said in front of the ancestral master that I wouldn't bother about it, so naturally I wouldn't bother about it. Don't worry, Zhou Yi replied indifferently, but in his heart, he was extremely happy. I am a disciple of the Tao ancestor. With the protection of this great god, who am I afraid of? Who dares to provoke me? Thank you, young Master Zhou, for your magnanimity. All the cultivators bowed respectfully toward Zhou Yi, not daring to be the slightest bit negligent. Zhou Yi, what kind of luck is this? When Fan Xian saw this scene, he felt a bit envious in his heart, and even more regretful. He was the one who met Li Yu first. Standing on the road and blocking his car, he had even been scolded by him. If he hadn't scolded him at that time, but had spoken kindly to him, would this opportunity have fallen on him? Why didn't you accept me? I was the one who met him first. Li Xiaoman also had a depressed look on her face. He was the one who met Li Yu first, and Zhou Yi was the one who came later. Why did you choose Zhou Yi and not me? Young Master Zhou, may I know the background of your ancestor? We are ignorant and inexperienced, so please advise us. An old man respectfully asked Zhou Yi, have you never heard of the name of the ancestral master? Zhou Yi looked at the cultivators in surprise. Supreme Tao ancestor? Haven't you heard of it? Haven't you heard of the primordial, limitless, pure, heavenly Lord of Tao and virtue? Heavenly Lord of Tao and virtue. Hearing this name, all the cultivators let out a strange cry and fell to the ground with a plop. Their bodies went limp and sweat poured down like rain. We're not dead yet. We're really lucky. Chapter 26. It's actually the heavenly sovereign of Tao and virtue. This is a great figure from the ancient mythological era. We are actually lucky enough to meet an Empyrean. Furthermore, he was going against the old man. This is really, the hearts of the cultivators were in turmoil. Joy, fear, surprise, confusion, and all sorts of emotions came together, causing them to be in a daze. After a long while, the group of cultivators finally came back to their senses. From what you said just now, it seems like you know the sky sovereign. An old man from the Jade Cauldron Paradise stood up and looked at Yi Fan, Li Xiaoman, and the others. His eyes were filled with shock. That's right. Yi Fan nodded and secretly sighed in his heart. The Tao ancestor is also a mythological figure in our country. When we first met him, we didn't even know that he was the Tao father. I even scolded him. Speaking up to hear, Yi Fan smiled bitterly and shook his head. Fortunately, the great Tao ancestor did not care about this small mistake and did not bother with me. We climbed the ancient mountain and had an accident. Thanks to the help of the Tao ancestor, we were able to come here alive. That's right. That's right, Li Xiaoman added. We met a demon in the ancient temple. It said that it's some kind of demon saint. Demon saint. The group of cultivators sucked in a breath of cold air. This was a saint-level existence, lifting the stars and capturing the moon, moving the mountains and filling the seas. He was so strong that he had no boundaries. However, they immediately thought that since there was an Empyrean here, any saint would be useless. That's right. That demon saint was too powerful. His body was taller than a mountain, and he flew in the sky and covering the sun. Li Xiaoman patted her chest, looking as if she was afraid. Fortunately, the Tao ancestor appeared. The Tao ancestor was merciful and even advised that demon saint not to commit murder. However, the demon saint did not listen, insulted the Tao ancestor, and even wanted to eat us. The Tao ancestor casually threw a circle and lightly knocked on the demon saint's head, and he died. With a light knock, he died. Hearing this, all the cultivators were sweating profusely. This was an Empyrean, and a light knock? Let him try knocking on it? Immediately, everyone felt a wave of rejoicing in their hearts. Fortunately, the Empyrean sovereign did not bother with us. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be left with a single breath. After the Tao ancestor killed the demon saint, he brought us here. Yi Fan continued. At the place where Miss Weiwei discovered us, we burned our life force and stimulated our potential. Everyone turned into an old man. Then the Tao ancestor waved his hand and changed us back to our current appearance. Good fortune. Good fortune. You guys are really lucky. When the cultivators heard this, their eyes lit up as they looked at them and praised. You guys are lucky enough to travel with a heavenly venerate and even obtain such good fortune. You guys must have cultivated good fortune in your past lives. Yes, the sea of misery had already been activated, and each of them was brimming with vitality and spiritual light. Their path of cultivation would definitely be smooth sailing. I'm so envious of you. It's a pity. I'm still not blessed enough. Li Xiaoman secretly glanced at Zhou Yi and sighed with some bitterness. The cultivators looked at Zhou Yi and then at the others, not knowing what to say. When it came to fortune, it depended on who it was compared to. Compared to the others, Li Xiaoman and the others were naturally very fortunate to have obtained such a fortune. However, compared to Zhou, it was like the difference between heaven and earth. Zhou, he was already a disciple of an Empyrean. Compared to the disciples of an Empyrean, this little bit of fortune was nothing. About that, I was also lucky. Good luck. Seeing the envious gazes of the crowd, Zhou, he felt great in his heart, but he smiled and said a few modest words. F*CK. Is this something that can be explained by luck? Everyone rolled their eyes in annoyance. All right, you guys don't have to be depressed. Although compared to young Master Zhou, your fortuitous encounters are a bit lacking. However, once you enter the immortal sect, you will definitely soar into the sky. There will definitely be a part of the heroes of the world. Why are you so discouraged? That's right. That's right. Don't worry. With your aptitude, after entering the immortal sect, you will definitely become an immortal seedling. The sect will focus on nurturing you, and you will definitely stand out. Yes. Right. With your aptitude, all the resources of the sect will be tilted towards you. Your future achievements will definitely be extraordinary. All the cultivators spoke up to persuade them, wanting to recruit them into the sect. If you hadn't appeared, these cultivators wouldn't have persuaded them or made any promises. They would have directly taken them away, not caring about the thoughts of a few mortals at all. But it was different at this moment. These people were related to the Empyrean. Although the relationship wasn't deep, there was a disciple of the Empyrean over there. With this kind of relationship, how could they deal with it at will? Next, the 6 major sects each set their conditions and promised benefits to persuade everyone to join the sect. After arguing for a while, the students of Zhou Yi all had their own places to go. After that, everyone said their goodbyes. The students dispersed to the 6 major sects and left with the elders of their respective sections. In the end, only Zhou Yi was left in the entire courtyard. From Earth to Big Dipper, it was a thrilling journey. Finally, all of them have entered the immortal sect. It can be considered a success. Zhou Yi walked out of the door and looked at the streaks of light that were disappearing into the distance. He secretly sighed. In contrast, I have entered the Tao Ancestors sect, and my starting point is much stronger than theirs. Coupled with the help of the Book of the Highest Heavens, every step of my future path will be very solid. Zhou, he looked up at the starry sky that was completely different from Earth and took a deep breath. Big Dipper star field, the world of cultivators. Let me see a different kind of brilliance. A ray of light whistled through the air and instantly landed in the courtyard. The ray of light faded away, and Liu's ethereal figure appeared in front of Zhou Yi. Disciple Zhou Yi pays his respects to the ancestral master. Seeing Liu appear, Zhou Yi hurriedly knelt in front of Liu. Get up. Liu smiled and waved his hand. A gentle force helped Zhou Yi up. Ancestral master, disciple wants to cultivate. Ancestral master, please teach me. After Zhou Yi got up, he looked at Liu anxiously. There would definitely be endless benefits to being accepted by the Tao Ancestor. Elixirs, divine techniques, and secret techniques, wouldn't they be easily obtained? Hee, don't worry. How could Liu not know what Zhou Yi was thinking? But whether it was selling the system, acting as the ancestral master, or lending a hand, all of this was definitely not helping others selflessly. Developing a customer and obtaining a steady stream of resources and benefits in the future was Liu's purpose. Therefore, even if it was an early investment, he couldn't develop the habit of giving things away for free. Zhou Yi, do you know the Great Emperor? Liu glanced at Zhou Yi with a smile that was not a smile. Awe the world, submission from all sides, and invincible in the world. This is the Great Emperor. Do you want to embark on this path of the Great Emperor? Do you want to reach the peak of this world? Yes. Of course, disciple wants to. Zhou Yi answered without hesitation. Originally, the Book of the Highest Heavens had given him a path of the Great Emperor mission, so he had to compete for the position of the Great Emperor. Therefore, he answered Liu's question very firmly. Then work hard. Liu laughed and thought to himself, Kid, if you want to compete for the position of the Great Emperor, you have to grab resources everywhere and keep exchanging. At that time, I will have a steady stream of gains. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.